Honestly, Wes, you can have all your opinions you want. The Book of Enoch and what's written in the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you just look at one thing like Sola Scriptura and you go off of this one thing, you're going to pervert your perspective to that opinion. But if you look at the entire world and you look at all the evidence, look at all the other religions talk about giants. All the other religions talk about angels. All the other religions talk about these gods, all the buildings, all the destruction, all the temples. You're looking at one thing and you've made an opinion. Like, bro, you're missing it, dude. You're missing it.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to JT's Mixtape. This is episode number 88. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you.
Come closer, my child.
Well, family, once again, I'm your host, JT, and I'm pleased to announce we got the whole crew together today. We've got Brian, Demon Racers, back from his Texas two-step. How's it going, Brian?
Great. Back, glad to be back and adventured around. It was fun.
And we've got Aaron, Tune Thy Heart. What's going on, Aaron?
What's up, y'all? Always happy to be here.
Yeah, so me and Brian had some adventures in the Lone Star State. We went to Austin, and then we finished up in Dallas, Fort Worth. And I want to get right into this because it was interesting. We'll have more to say about that. Brian and I did like 3 podcasts while we were there. Good times. It's kind of a busy trip. Like I said, it felt like an actual work trip more than a work vacation. It was a lot of, but it was fun. I'm not going to complain. But I think Brian and I both, when we finished up in Texas, we met with a very big content creator named and brother in Christ, Nick Kaswani. And so I did his podcast, and you guys can check that out. Maybe I'll put a link in the description if you guys want to check out the podcast I did with Nick. We talked about portals and Enoch and all this kind of stuff. But he made a reel the other day about us talking about the Book of Enoch, and it's generated a little bit of controversy. But I'll share the reel with you guys first, and you guys can check this out.
I fully believe that the Book of Enoch was in the biblical canon. I believe it was taken out. I know this to be a fact. The Ethiopian Bible still use it. And the Ethiopian church is one of the oldest churches in the world. Jude literally quotes it verbatim in the scriptures.
Yeah.
I believe that it was taken out for 2 reasons. Number 1, it exposes the unseen realm. But number 2, there are multiple prophecies about Jesus, the Messiah, that's coming.
People think today that the Book of Enoch's not valid because it tells a story about the Watchers taking wives of earthly women and then creating this offspring race that's deformed or gigantic or whatever they are. That's in Genesis 6. That's really not that controversial. If you read like the Antiquity of the Jews by Josephus, they all had that view. What's interesting, if you do research what some of the early church fathers talked about, was that shortly after the times of Jesus, Justin Martyr, Origen, and Tertullian all wrote that the Jewish rabbis were changing their scriptures in order to write out prophecies that directly pointed to Jesus.
Wow.
It was Tertullian actually said the reason why the Jews removed Enoch from the canon wasn't because of giants. It wasn't because of anything like that. It was because it pointed to the Messiah who already came and they crucified.
So what's the controversy?
Right. Exactly. Why I know that this sphere of content creators and probably most of the audience, they would all agree with what we said there. I mean, anything to add, Brian?
No, I mean, like, that's exactly, I mean, like, the Book of Enoch straight up says his name will be Jesus. Like, it's one of the most, I would say, like, you look at the Bible and today, and except for Isaiah, like, most of the texts that are like, oh, this points to Jesus is kind of like vague almost. It's like, oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, okay, that's totally Jesus. But the Book of Enoch, like, it's pretty dang blatant that it's pointing to Jesus to the point where they had to manipulate and change it. So that way they made this Metatron and they made all this other stuff to like make it, they made Enoch sound like he was, like it was referring to Enoch, referring to himself rather than referring to Jesus. But when you read the proper translation, it's straight up, it's pointing to Jesus. Like, it's so obvious that it's pointing to Jesus. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of people point to is that when he sees this Messiah and the angel says, that what he says, "Son of Man, you are the Messiah."
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like the way it's written, I see where people get the idea that it's pointing to Enoch being the Messiah, but none of the book validates that view at all, because it's like he's seeing things third person, or he's a witness to all these things, and it's not like when that verse takes place that the book shifts where all of a sudden he's appointed to be the Messiah. He's not. So yeah. But anyways, the point being is that we looked this up, and I know Brian and I have done multiple podcasts talking about Enoch. That was the thing that blew me away, is when you read what Tertullian said about the Book of Enoch. He's the one who specifically says that it is scripture. So Tertullian was I think they say he was like a 3rd century, right around 200 AD. And again, the dates are confusing to us, especially in the little season. But he's a very early church father. He says Enoch is scripture, and he's saying that the reason that the Jews wrote out the Book of Enoch, removed it from their canon, was because of Christ. I mean, that's from him. So he's saying it's scripture. He validates it. He says it explains Genesis 6, and he's talking mostly about the apocalypse that's predicted in there, or the prophesied, and Christ himself. And see, that's the interesting thing. A lot of people try to debunk Enoch, and they try to throw shade at the idea that we always say, well, Jude quotes directly from it. And they say, oh, well, Paul also quoted pagan authors in different stories. But it's like, but Jude says the prophet Enoch. Did not the prophet Enoch say this? So he's not saying it like he's quoting some kind of a mythology. He's saying a prophet said this. And this is the things that are going to take place after this. But so I'm going to get into what the controversy was, because this was really interesting, because you know who came after Nick, and I guess me as well, because I'm in the video? Old Wes Huff.
Tell me. Oh, really? No,
Yeah,
Wes Huff did?
Yeah, here's what Wes Huff said.
Great.
So this post is nonsense, but more interesting is that they lift an image at 11 seconds I made for my Enoch post manuscript on Monday post.
That's
so
great.
Saying,
I love it.
So look, so if I click over the next image, it says, steal the image, but forget to read the post debunking what you're trying to argue. For in my video, you include my work within. So this dude accused Nick of straight up stealing from him.
That's hilarious.
So he's not. So he's saying, he's obviously not arguing anything we said. He's just saying the post is nonsense, and they stole from me.
Wow. Well, I love it. It's just getting more traction. Like,
wait,
so, go for it, bro.
But he didn't, like, because he's a very studied man. He didn't articulate any reasons as to why he
I think he's
agree?
Just like saying, go look at my original post, go look at my videos. I'm not going to even try to debunk what we said. I mean, the funny thing is, if you just listen to exactly what we said in that video, I mean, line for line. So what Nick said was, it's in the Ethiopian. He's saying, I believe that I believe. He didn't say for a fact. He says, this is what I believe. He also said that it's in the Ethiopian canon, and Ethiopia is one of the oldest churches. Valid, right? I mean, that's not wrong, right? And he says that, then he gives his opinion about why it could have been removed. And then, so when I started to say about the things about what the early church fathers, and I quoted all the ones that I referenced, and then they were talking about how the Jewish rabbis were removing texts that indicated that Jesus was the Messiah. And then specifically, Tertullian said that exactly about the Book of Enoch. So you could say that our interpretation is wrong. I mean, that you could disagree with it, but to say it's nonsense is nonsense. And here, I want to show people.
How does Wes Huff like reconcile that? Like, does he just like say, "Oh, Tertullian's opinion's like nonsense"? I guess.
Yeah, what is his opinion of it? What is his actual?
Well, he thinks it's fake. He thinks that's nonsense that women slept with angels and all that. He thinks that's fake.
Really? So Wes Huff doesn't believe
He doesn't believe in the Nephilim at all. He don't believe in it.
So he doesn't believe the Book of Enoch at all.
I've never heard him say that. I didn't.
I've heard him say it. I heard him say it. He said something. Somebody said, in regards to the Book of Enoch, blah 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 blah. I think this is a preposterous idea or something like that. And I was like, oh, so he thinks that like women sleeping with the angels is not their physical beings or their spiritual beings. He said something. I'm pretty
But
sure I remember
how
him
does he
saying a video of it.
if that's true, how does he justify the authenticity of the writings? Because like,
Bro hasn't read the Dead Sea Scrolls, apparently. I don't know. 'Cause,
Well,
like,
I
it's
think
like,
he's aware, and I think that's why like that image did come from, I guess, one of his Instagram posts, and I'm going to show you that in a second. So he knows that, but a lot of people have tried to, I don't know, split the baby. They're like, yeah, Jude does quote basically directly from, like, for the most part, about what they have preserved. But the thing is,
why
I
are
think
we?
that we're all big boys and girls, and we understand that things have been lost over time. So the Book of Enoch, as we have it today, could we verify exactly that's what the book that Jude is referencing? No, I don't think so. I mean, like, I don't think it's possible for us to. There's no way to prove that. But the opposite is also true as well, that you can't disprove what we're saying either. So this book is much older. It at least dates back to like the Second Temple period with Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, how much of that would have been validated versus what the actual text we have today? And as Brian mentioned, Second Enoch and Third Enoch, the stuff when you get into Metatron, that's straight Kabbalah. That is
Yeah, it's nonsense.
That's not what we're trying to validate. So, like, don't even get it twisted. So, but what's interesting is that he wants to say, like, these are the facts. But I mean, like, this comes with like humility of saying, like, yeah, things have been lost. Jude is clearly quoting from something. Again, we talked about it the other day. Well, actually, we talked about last week, Aaron, about how Jude also quotes from a apocryphal book called The Ascension of Moses.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's like Jude is not saying that the Holy Spirit spoke to me and then told me what Enoch's prophecy was. He's quoting it like he's read it off a scroll, right? Just like and it's like a common knowledge thing that this is what Enoch said.
yeah, he was
Like,
quoting and referencing writings that existed that people were familiar with.
right. Again, it's like what I love that kind of the Michael Heiser view of all this stuff is that you have to put yourself in the shoes of the reader. So just in the same way that Genesis 6 does not explain the whole story of the Nephilim, it's a story that's known to these people. So just referencing it somewhat is enough for people to understand what he's talking about, the writer of Genesis. So in the same way, Jude knows when he's writing this epistle to some church, they know what he's talking about. Because otherwise he would have got into much more detail about what he's talking about. But he references that verse, and then he talks about the angels that were in chains in gloomy darkness awaiting judgment. That also is in the Book of Enoch. Hello. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the reason he's quoting about it. He's mentioning it because he's talking about that this prophecy in the Book of Enoch is talking about the return of Christ. Is the Lord coming with this host of 10,000s of his holy ones. Like, that's why he's quoting it. So, like, when somebody says, oh, well, it's just like, well, we don't really know what he was talking about. It's like, absolutely, we know what he's talking about based on the view of the return of Christ is imminent. All these things are about to take place. But I want to get specifically into the idea that Wes Huff is calling Nick, and I maybe myself, because I'm in the video, a thief. Now, this is a little bit of inside baseball because this is just how we make videos. Before, like kind of all the AI tools and all the different ways to make images, you know what most of us just do? I mean, I probably do this actually before I ever consider making an image myself for a video. I say, okay, I'm going to talk about the Bible. Maybe I'm going to have an image of the Bible, so I can show an image of it. I'm going to talk about the Book of Jude. So maybe I'll have like a page of the Bible showing the Book of Jude. And then you know what I might first do? If I'm going to make a video about the Book of Enoch and I'm going to try to validate it using the Book of Jude, I might say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you this, guys, right now, and I'm going to show you exactly how this happens. I'm going to go right over to Google. Not that I recommend this as a typical search tool because it's flawed, but I'll say, okay, Jude quotes the Book of Enoch, right? And so I'll go, well, it's right here, regular tab, and I'll go use an image search. Right, so here's my image search, and I'll scroll down, and I'll say, oh, this looks like a good image right here. And then I'll right-click it,
Yeah.
and I'll save image as, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you follow this image, it's Wes
That's
Huff's
funny.
post.
That's Wes Huff. Yeah, it's exactly his post.
It's his
Well,
post.
and-
But like, you see how quickly that I could have done that? Because that's what we do in the content creator space all the time. And you know what? The thing is, there's a thing called fair use in America, Wes. I know you're Canadian, but here's what we do is that you're allowed to use parts of people's videos, parts of images for commentary. So this is not actually legally theft when you're accusing another Christian of stealing from you. It's like you posted this on your public Instagram account where you have almost 800,000 followers. Did you put your watermark on it? And it would also be kind of weird if you put your watermark on it because you're quoting directly from the Bible and we're just using a picture that that I guess you created. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you see like how this works?
Who even knows if he created the image? Who knows?
Right,
He just
exactly.
likely posted it.
Exactly. And even if he didn't, I don't care. It's like, you know, Brian's made tons of videos. Aaron's made tons of videos. We've all done it. And we've all seen our content other places.
Everywhere.
And I don't immediately go into their comment sections. You stole from me, bro. It's like I make public videos. Like, you know, if you use part of me, you know, it's nice to get credit for it sometimes, especially when it's directly your video. But if I made a meme, the whole point of a meme is for that to be shared, right? And if I care about getting credit, I might put my little JT Files JC watermark on it if I want to get credit for it.
And
but
at
if
a
not,
certain
it's
level,
like, you know, you created a public image. It's like it's fair use. It's like literally the law.
At a certain level, like you can't expect to get any recognition or mention from some of that stuff. I appreciated having stuff other people created to make a reference to things. And so when I created things on my own, an image or a diagram or whatever, and I shared it, I just assumed other people were going to chop it up and use it for their own use as well. I'm like, this is the way it works. And I was I was always completely okay with it. I'm still completely okay with that. Like there's no pride there, especially if we're using it to further the gospel or the work of the kingdom. It's like, yeah, dude, take it, dice it up, use it however you want. Like, that's the way this works. That's really strange. That's actually kind of disappointing because I actually kind of like Wes Huff, and I agree with the majority of what he says. And so that's actually kind of disappointing.
It's very disappointing. Actually, that's the thing. It's like that we all loved him destroying Billy Carson. And we'll all be forever grateful that he did that because that was a great moment. But I got to be honest, the more that I've heard him talk, the less I've been impressed with him. Now, he said a lot of things that absolutely, the thing is, we probably agree with Wes about 90-something% of the time.
For sure.
But the 10% sometimes we feel very important. I know that he's been very, let's just say, juvenile when it comes to people who don't believe Jesus was born on Christmas Day, September 25th. Or did I say December? December 25th. He also says that, you know, like he had a post on his YouTube channel wearing bunny ears and say, no, Easter's not pagan. And he's done it like in a way where he's like making conspiracy theorists look stupid.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's not very graceful. A lot of things he says. And I think he's very selective in the way that he interprets like church history in what they call Sola Scriptura. So he believes that he believes that God gave us the Bible when it's very clear that like God established a church and then the church put the Bible together. I mean, obviously God's word is the scriptures that were written, but it's like, but he established the church with the apostles. I mean, that's in the text that you believe, right? So like knowing that there's a council in Jerusalem and they're deciding what's the new covenant and they're figuring it out using the Holy Spirit.
It says follow me by word or by letter. Like the Bible says literally clearly it's by word or by letter the things that we taught you.
Well,
so
the truth is when
Sola
Jesus
Scriptura.
establishes like this, and he's like, you are Peter, and on this rock I'm going to establish my church, and the gates of hell are not going to prevail against it. So knowing that, and he tells them, if two of you are gathered in my name, there I am also. He's telling them that I'm giving you guys authority to go establish this new covenant and this new church. Well, he's established the new covenant, but he wants them to go teach it and preach the gospel of the kingdom. And without them, there is no Bible, right? You know, like I said, it's not like the tablets are written with stone, you know, on stone. I mean, like the Bible has been translated over many years and it's been bound by different canons. What's going on, y'all? This podcast is brought to you by Modern Roots Life. Modern Roots Life is a Christian-owned and operated company, and it's bringing real health back to its roots. They offer powerful all-natural health supplements such as beef liver, cod liver oil, beef tallow, magnesium, and mineral-rich salts, all sourced the way God intended. Clean, simple, and from the earth. So whether you're looking to boost your energy, restore mineral balance, or just fuel your family with real nourishment, Modern Roots Life has got you covered. Guys, in this community, we're trying to get healthy in our mind, in our body, and our spirit. So don't neglect your health. If you want more information, check out modernrootslife.com and check the link in my description. You know, people often ask me how they can support me. Well, I think it's pretty cool if you can support me by supporting the people who support me, and you get something in return. And being healthy is a pretty good return. The Protestant view of this is so cringe. That's what Nick was saying. Like the Protestantism is very cringe the way that they interpret their canon, because they think, for some reason, probably because they're like historically illiterate, many of them, they think the 66 book canon is like the one that's always been agreed upon.
It's magical.
But I want to say that the Catholic canon has 73 books, and the Orthodox canon, like the Eastern Orthodox canon, is 79 books. And then I want to say, so the Ethiopian canon, it's between 81 and 88 books. So it's like, that the 66 book thing is newer than these other more established churches, whether we agree with all of the doctrines of these churches or not. Like, it's very narrow-minded to say, oh, well, this is what's been agreed upon. By who? You? By Martin Luther? It's kind of funny, too. I always think about these people who are, like, very careful dancing around the subject of Israel. Go read what Martin Luther wrote about the people wearing the little hats. It will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. He would totally be banned off social media for the stuff he said.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
you
he
know
wrote
what I'm
a whole
saying?
book.
So, like,
there's a whole book on it, actually.
Yeah, well, he wrote a book about this. So all that being said is that we need to be humble in the way that we talk about these issues. Like, now, when I was talking about the early church fathers in that video, I was just straight spitting facts. Like, I'm telling you what they said, and I'm telling you their names, so you can go look it up. Go look up what I said about what Tertullian said about the Book of Enoch. Now, when Nick was saying what he said, he's saying, this is my belief, and this is what I believe, and this is what I think. You can't debunk what somebody believes or what they think. It's like, you can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was not even saying it was a fact. He was just saying, like, this is his opinion. And we're talking about, you can pick one church father who agrees with you, and then you can take another church father that would probably be on the other side. Because, hello, the church fathers were also men. And just like people today, that we as Christians, you could quote me or you could quote Wes Huff, and it's like, oh, well, so-and-so said this, and so-and-so. We don't agree about everything. And I think that's the way it's always been.
And it's okay though. It's okay to have like healthy discourse and disagree on certain things. What bothers me, and it's really disappointing, is when believers that are all working in and for the kingdom, when they disparage each other and rip on each other for issues that are not salvation issues. It's like, if we all agree on the points of salvation and how we find salvation and how we come to Jesus and in our understanding of the way that we have a relationship, like if we all agree on those things, why rip each other apart for all of the other things that are just ancillary? I mean, I know they're important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not important, but they're not salvation issue important. So like, that's just really discouraging. I hate it when people in the community do that to each other.
It really comes down to this. Like, when Wes Huff pulled out his sword and I saw how weak his sword skills were, I was done. I was done. I was like, Wes, you had to speed up your video, bro. Like, and that's weak, man. I mean, come on, bro.
I remember that. I'll just say this about this. The only real reason, like, I guess this really kicked up my ire that I wanted to talk about it so much is the fact that
the word theft.
Yeah, right. Is accusing somebody of stealing from you. And the funny part about it is, would he have accused Nick of stealing from him if he had agreed with him?
No, absolutely. He would have been
I
like,
mean, I mean,
well, he's
everybody else
pushing
can
the
decide in
agenda.
their audience would he have called them out if he agreed with Wes Huff?
But you got to think of it this way. You got to think of it this way. Like he's like imagine a Satanist stole one of the clips from your video to push their satanic agenda, right? So he thinks your agenda is the devil because he doesn't agree with the Book of Enoch and he doesn't read scripture. And the reality is really this. Like honestly, Wes, you can have all your opinions you want of whatever text you have, but if you just look at one thing like Sola Scriptura and you go off of this one thing, you're going to get an opinion and you're going to pervert your perspective to that opinion. But if you look at the entire world and you look at all the evidence, look at all the other religions talk about giants, all the other religions talk about angels, all the other religions talk about these gods, all the other things in history, all the buildings, all the stuff, all the destruction, all the temples, bro, you're looking at one thing and you've made an opinion and you go, the Bible says this. Like, bro, you're missing it, dude. You're missing it. Like all of the evidence in an accumulative fashion, when you look at it, points to the fact that this content in the Book of Enoch and what's written in the Dead Sea Scrolls, surprise, surprise, you probably don't read that very often, or I don't know how you justify that stuff because it straight up talks about the Nephilim like over and over in like all those texts there in the Dead Sea Scrolls that you probably point to. In fact, I think the screenshot you took was a screenshot of the Book of Enoch in the Dead Sea Scrolls. But regardless of that, like there's so much evidence in the world and you're so close-minded to not even recognize it. That's it, bro. You are prideful and you think you know, and you're not even considering all of the stuff that we have before you. I don't know. That just seems like my opinion.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about it, it did seem like it came from like a prideful place where he just says, I've already debunked this. So like, I'm not even going to try here. I'm just going to accuse them of theft and say, go check out my other video or my other post and you'll know what's true. To me, that's showing a person who can't be at least humble enough to say, hey, there's more than one opinion about this. You guys make up your own mind based on the evidence. So based on that, let's shift gears. Do you want to go to something funny first? I got a video I know that we're going to watch that I can admit in the conspiracy community, there's a lot of stupid stuff. And I found a really funny video that, let's just say I think this guy's joking. I'm 99.9% sure he's joking, but this is sort of what you get in the conspiracy community. And I hope people can spot the difference between crazy and maybe reasonable skepticism and whatever. I don't know. Just watch this.
Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce getting married may have seemed like a typical publicity stunt for the adorable couple, but it was actually an ancient eldritch ceremony trying to summon Azathoth, the blind idiot god, and everyone who attended the ceremony is in on this ancient plan. 4 wedding guests, Ed Sheeran, Hugh Grant, Sacha Baron Cohen, and Millie Bobby Brown will be ushered in as the 4 eldritch horsemen of the apocalypse, looking to strategically wipe out all major governments and countries. Travis and Taylor's bodies will meld into one host for Azathoth to take command, and they plan to remake the Earth into one giant stadium where all enslaved humans will be forced to play football and listen to Life of a Showgirl. The only person who can stop this is Jared Leto, who plans to inject rabbit bat blood into his veins to hopefully turn into the real-life version of Morbius in order to defeat Azathoth. I truthfully don't know how this will play out, but you need to stay tuned and follow for more updates.
Dude, what in the world is happening?
I found that guy's account yesterday, and apparently that's not the only video he does like that. But I mean, if you can't tell, like obviously he's leaning into the idea that when somebody sees something that is presented in public, you know, I got to be honest. I mean, like that, a lot of it's valid. It's a valid satire on what even some videos that we've probably made about, oh, well, you see this, but it actually means this. They're actually summoning this ancient Mesopotamian demon and blah, blah, blah. They could be. But the way that it's presented on social media, that's more likely what normies see when they see videos like, you know, some of them.
Yeah, when he brought...
That's satanic, bro. That whole thing is satanic, dude. His behavior satanic, his attitude satanic. People don't realize it. Like that dude's doing more damage to the message of truth than anything. Like, and he thinks he's, you know, being funny with clicks, but the reality is his video makes you think that the stuff that we do is like not valid. And so what it's doing is it's like, sure, it's funny to us because we see it and we get it. But at the same time, like it's literally causing people to write off what we say or what we do or the things that are valid, right? And it blurs the line to where people think that, the things that we talk about are crazy because that guy's obviously crazy, and you can't see the line there. So I think that's part of it. I think that's a satanic agenda. That dude's totally demon possessed, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is, like, this guy, I mean, again, we pull from a variety of videos, and they're not necessarily Christian content creators who make this stuff. Honestly, I think it's a valid satire because I think we as Christian content creators and people who do understand a little bit more about, like, the audience we're trying to reach, that you could appear like he's appearing to lots of people. So it's important that we don't just say, trust me, bro, like, this is what's happening. Because I think that's what he was really critiquing, is like the people who know so much about what's happening behind the scenes that they could not know. And I find that behavior on social media or academia,
You
or
mean
the
like the
science
moon
community,
bases?
as
Like the moon
repugnant.
bases?
What's that?
So you mean like the moon bases that Alberino knows about?
What? Right? No, right. You know what? I want to say that again. I'm not trying to make Alberino our whipping boy all the time, but I remember when I first started listening to him, like on Blurry Creatures, I found so much of what he said thought provoking. I thought he had very interesting interpretations of things. Not that I always agreed ever, but when he started talking about, like, the things that happen inside the dumbs, with very specific detail about the things that are happening, same kind of thing. Like I said, I know that Brian and I got a lot of flack for talking about Nathan Reynolds when he was talking about all the SRA stuff. The detail and the amount of crazy that they're talking about in very specific ways. It's kind of like, okay, Nathan Reynolds, I guess maybe he's a different case because, like, he's claiming he was there and it happened to him or people he knew, and, like, he witnessed it with his own eyes. Now, well, like, Tim Alberino was talking about things that were happening in secret military bases under the ground. It's like, how do you know that? It's like, but he's not citing his sources of, like, how he knows that, because that's the kind of thing that, imagine if you started spilling the tea about the stuff that was happening under there. You might be back under the ground, but not in the base anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It also makes me wonder about somebody that, like, who's that dude, that ex-CIA guy that everybody seems to like. I like some of his stuff. Talking about the guy that's...
But yeah, is it like John, is it like almost like a Greek name, like Kirkos, some with the K?
I think but he's the dude, he's been making the rounds on podcasts talking about stuff, and he made a claim, actually. He said that the government can control your vehicle. He said that the government can control your vehicle and completely cause it to drive into a wall or off of a bridge or whatever. And so he made this claim, anybody's vehicle, which is, number one, nonsense. Okay. But number two, like, the reason why it makes me wonder if he's like a double agent at this point, because it's like, if that really was the power that the government had, would they allow him to come out and, like, talk about this on a channel, on a podcast, like, before thousands of people? Or is he being told this information, given it to tell you, so that way you live in fear? They're like, oh my gosh, any moment the government could take control of my car and just drive it off a cliff. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know. Just, I think the information, if you're somebody that's leaking information like that, it's either intentionally leaked, or they're letting you leak it, or they want you to leak it, or you're a liar. Like one or the other, I think.
Well, a lot of people say, I've heard this, but once you're in one of these agencies, you're always an agent.
You're never out.
You never really get out. So yeah, that I want to say, even on his social media profile, it's like his name, CIA, on there. So, like, he's saying, like, that he's affiliated with them. Now, famously, that guy, if we're talking about the same guy, he's the one who revealed a lot of stuff from their like their torture programs, like in what was the place in Cuba? What was it called? What was that base called in Cuba?
It was, I know what you're talking about, the one where everybody was doing the
well, there was Abu Ghraib in Iraq, but in Cuba it was called, I forget. Somebody let us know in the comments. Not important. But he went to jail for that.
Yeah,
but at the same time, maybe that's a
something?
situation where now he's gained street cred with us, so we'll believe what he's saying. Now, the thing about the driving cars, can they do that with every car? I don't know, but I'm definitely not I'm not doubting that they could. Now, what's crazy when we were in Texas, like in Austin,
I think they could do it to Teslas, and I think
they
they could do
definitely
it
can
to
do it to
some
certain cars.
any
There's definitely
cars that,
certain cars.
yeah.
Because-
Cars that have a computer that allows it to drive itself, they could, or it has a remote control computer system that can, make it go.
Yeah, because I was saying that. Well, a lot of people are telling me that Austin, Texas, is probably one of the biggest places where they have like the self-driving cars driving around, and I've seen them in other places where they have all the sensors like on the roof and all the bumpers and all around the whole car, and so I was kind of ready for that. But almost as soon as I got my rental car, I went to like one of the first stoplights after leaving the airport. There was just this black Tesla with no markings on it, and it was just driving itself. There was nobody in the back seat. There was nobody in the passenger side. And I just look over. I'm like, that's freaky, man. Like that is a weird, weird thing that of course, me and Brian were talking about it. It's like, we've talked about this, and I don't want to make this another Fear AI episode, but we're going to talk a little bit more about AI soon. But the idea that AI is taking so many jobs, and if you think about all these people who, because everything's so expensive, they had to take on second jobs, and a lot of them are taking on jobs like, like DoorDash and Uber and Lyft and all that stuff. Those jobs are going away like super soon. Like super soon. Because when you see the way that they just drive themselves. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that, yes, I agree with you, Brian, that there's definitely tons of double agents out there.
Seems like it. I mean, they could have shown up to the dude's jail cell and said, like, look, we'll let you out early, but you're going to pretend to be a whistleblower, and we're going to tell you what information we want you to leak. I mean, like, who knows? Like,
Oh, 100%.
Who knows? Because I like the guy. He does seem very likable. But
the truth is, he's
and some of the stuff he's saying could be true. But then
it's like a Tucker Carlson, where we're not completely blind to the fact that he could very likely be controlled opposition. But that doesn't mean he's not saying true things. It actually means he probably is saying a lot of true things. Now, the devil in the details is, where's the lie? That's where you really got to be listening out for.
I think it's just like a movie. There are different roles that need to be played in real life. And so there's different people that they have doing different things. And some of them are sharing the literal truth. And some of them are distorting the truth. And some of them are giving half-truths. And I think all of them are just doing what they've been directed to do. And that's their role. Because, I mean, even someone like Tucker, it's like, especially lately, he seems to be saying all the right things. He seems to be saying all of the things to get, the true believers on his side to agree with him. And it looks like he's exposing things and calling things out, but he's obviously protected. Like, he's obviously protected. And, you look at bloodlines and families, and I don't think it's even remotely a stretch to say that he's controlled opposition. But it's like, yeah, everybody's, I believe, in the world has, when I say in the world, I mean all the big players of the world. They've all got a different role to play. And that's why, not to sound redundant, but like, that's why it's so important to understand the word and to be able to walk with the Holy Spirit and understand the directive of the Holy Spirit, because we don't know who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth and who's distorting the truth and who's, like, when it comes to all of these things and claims that people are making, it's like, what are their intentions in telling us this stuff? Like, truly, what are their intentions? What are they trying to get out of this? Like, what are they trying to do to our minds? I think that I would say is up to 90, maybe even 95% of conspiracy content in general is absolute trash. It shouldn't exist. Those people, they shouldn't be making content. For most of the people, I would say it's a money grab, especially on TikTok and like Instagram. I would say for most people, it's a money grab. It's also like low-hanging fruit to get attention, to get likes, and to feed their dopamine rush and all of that. But like, some of the claims are just absolutely ridiculous. And going back before to the video of making fun of conspiracies and stuff like that, I know some of my earlier videos in the conspiracy movement, they absolutely deserved to be made fun of and to be ridiculed, like, without even a question. And so I can understand the humor behind that. And that's also That's also why it's so dangerous, because, it's like if you, it's almost like the boy who cried wolf. If you do have something important to say, if you are following Jesus and the Holy Spirit gives you a message that the general public needs to hear, if you're making content like that all of the time, and then you deliver a message that's super sound and very impactful, like, where's your credibility at?
Yeah, that's absolutely valid, because we mentioned that when we were talking about the people predicting UFOs, and we're comparing it to the same kind of people who predict the rapture every year. And it's like, okay, so we're supposed to take you seriously now? You just said something provably false just like 5 minutes ago. So now we're supposed to believe that? So yeah, I mean, I do think that being a good representative of Christ is, not reaching so much. Again, like always coming about things from like a humble spirit and being able to explain things and giving and hedging just because it's likely the truth that you don't really know if this is going to happen the way it is or not. So yeah, valid, valid, valid. I got a really interesting one. This one would seem like a conspiracy and this would seem absolutely crazy, but I love all the mysteries of the things that are buried under the ground. And I'm going to get into some tunnels here again because I love the subject of tunnels. But this video I thought was pretty mind-blowing.
Didn't know this, but apparently there are a bunch of shipwrecks in the middle of cornfields in Kansas, buried like 50 feet below the ground. Of course, there's this one dude, treasure hunter, who's made it his life mission to excavate 19th century steamboat shipwrecks from Midwestern cornfields. Very niche. He uses old maps and a proton magnetometer to figure out its probable location. In 1988, Holly, this treasure hunter, uncovered a steamboat called Great White Arabia that sank in 1856. He found it 45 feet beneath the ground, and there was 200 tons of treasure, pre-war artifacts. Of course, there's no water damage because it's in a cornfield, so it's in pristine condition. Even the food was still edible. This looks like celery sticks. But apparently, over 400 boats have sunk in the Missouri River. And you're probably like, that's so weird. How does a boat that's sunk in a river end up in a cornfield? Well, funny you bring that up, because in the 19th century, the Army Corps of Engineers tried to forcibly alter the river. They tried to make it more narrow, bring the banks in so that boats would move faster through it by speeding up the current. So when Arabia sank, by hitting like a snag in the bend, it was fossilized not in the river, but decades later, it was like pushed into the cornfield. Today, they've located another steamboat, Steamboat Malta. Here's where it's located. It's called Malta Bend because they knew that Steamboat Malta sunk there in 1841, hit a tree, but it will cost like $3 million to dig it up. They're just planning on digging it up, but they need space first for where to put all these artifacts from it. It requires a lot of resources and timing, because if it floods, all that treasure is in jeopardy.
You guys want to hear something fascinating about that? So the book of Isaiah mentions the Euphrates splitting into 7 channels. But if you look at the Euphrates, it doesn't. Like, there's not 7 branches branching off from it. But the Mississippi River did have 7 channels, 7 different rivers breaking off from it. And that very well could have been, I mean, obviously there was water flowing through that place at some point in time in order for that stuff to be buried in that field. But kind of going back to a lot of people saying that the Holy Land was once in America, like that supports it pretty well. I'm not saying I'm 100% behind that, but I definitely find it fascinating.
Yeah, well, I mean, just based on, without getting into crazy theories, this is
Are you
just
calling my theory crazy?
Well, I'm just saying.
Kidding.
I'm just saying. This is without theorizing.
Yeah.
This is just. I'm just going to state a just straight up fact based on this understanding that I just looked it up. There's between like 200 to 300 steamboats under fields in places like Kansas, that is insane. I think
People
that's
just
insane.
didn't bother to like dig them up after they sunk. They just
Well,
like,
that's what it was
left
saying in the video, that it's very costly to dig them up. So that's,
I mean, but like as soon as it sank, I would have like swam in there maybe.
well, you would think that, once the,
Brian,
well,
getting
the way
his
the
scuba
story
gear.
goes, is that they diverted the river, and then so a lot of these ships, I guess, hit the bend and they capsized or something and fell over. You would think that the way she's describing it, there's all kinds of valuable things that were stored on these boats. You would have thought, at least, that whoever was the person who was in charge of shipping, they would have tried their best to go get the stuff out of them.
Did they just like suck at getting stuff out of boats at that time? Because
I mean, you really think about what they're describing, though, is like diverting that massive river. That seems like a pretty big undertaking just in itself. So you're talking about a people not a primitive people. You're talking about a people who can do a lot of stuff. No, but what I was going to get into was that the fact that, see, we have a very narrow view of what the world looks like today. And it almost reminds me of when Peter's talking about, he's talking about the scoffers in the last days, saying that, well, this place has always been like it has been since the very beginning of time. And he's like, oh, no, you neglect to remember that God destroyed the earth with a flood, and now he's storing up fire in the firmament to destroy the world again. So people are looking at the earth in the maps today saying, oh, well, this is the way it's always been. No, it's not the way it's always been.
No.
So, I mean, so that's a fact right there. I said you can share. That's a very tangible fact. You say that there's a cornfield in Kansas with a steamboat under it. And not only that, there's hundreds of them. That is why. I mean, I think that leads you to believe that, especially when all this funny business is once again happening in like the 1840s, there's something super sus about that. And I'm going to have to get more into this maybe on a future episode, maybe with the Ancient Roots podcast. I was reading a book when I was on the flights back and forth from Virginia to Texas, and I was reading Kabbalah Secrets That Every Christian Needs to Know. And it's really interesting that I did learn something, that it was saying that one of these Jewish rabbis who was into Kabbalah, he was saying that Kabbalah was like secret for the longest time, but then there was this shift where knowledge was supposed to go out all around the world to all the Gentiles too, about the secrets of Kabbalah, because this was supposed to bring in their Mashiach in the end times. Have you ever heard this, Brian?
yeah, I think I have.
Do you know when they said this took place? When this decree was for it to go? 1840.
Interesting.
1840. So, I mean, like, so some people have speculated that the little season began in 1776, and then we were going to be at 250 years, and then I guess Gog Magog would happen, the end of the world. Well, it's past July 4th, 2026, so it's been 250 years. But what if the little season didn't start in 1776? Probably didn't. It could have taken place right around then, but it could have been the mid 1800s. It could have been earlier than that. I mean, who knows?
I kind of think maybe the 1500s is when he was let out. That's my theory.
If there's anything I've learned from conspiracies and going into conspiracies and coming up with like solid ideas and what I think they are.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't.
Yeah, like the conclusion I've come to is like whatever I think they are, and whatever all the evidence that we have available to us leads to what they probably are.
It's probably not it.
They're probably not.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's about humility. It's like there's so much speculation that goes along that we make one kind of we get one kind of data point, and then we project off that one data point. And then by the time we get to like our full blown theory, it could have been started with the data point being inaccurate, and then where we at with our conclusion, our summation of all this.
Well, because when we research stuff, we're assuming we have all of the data.
So I don't think that. Well, we're I wouldn't never say that we have all the data, but we have data. But we have like a mishmash of data that who really knows if it's true or not?
But that's what I'm saying. So like, we go off of the data that was presented to us as like the general consensus for what everyone should think and believe. And then it's really easy for us to go, no, that's definitely not true. They're lying to us about that. So then we go to other data that's available to us, not realizing that all of the data is coming from the same source. Like the same people that control this data control whether we have access to this data. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the most difficult part. And I remember I just went on a podcast. I went on the Broadcasting Seeds podcast, and he was saying, what do you think that the best evidence against the little season is? And I told Tim, I said, this is my opinion based on what the most pushback we get is that we don't have enough evidence to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I said, I acknowledge that in this community, we really don't trust the history that much either. So it's very difficult for us to prove the little season based on history that we're acknowledging is full of holes, or it might be just outright fabrications. But you know what, Brian, you brought up something interesting about the little season potentially starting in the 1500s. There was an event in the 1500s that's very curious.
April 14th, 1561, Nuremberg, Germany. Hundreds of terrified witnesses watched as spheres, glowing crosses, and massive cylinders appeared in the sky. For over an hour, these strange objects battled each other in a chaotic celestial war, spinning, crashing, and fighting violently. Then, a gigantic black spear-shaped object emerged and dominated the battlefield. All of this was recorded in a famous broadsheet by artist Hans Glasser. To this day, no one knows if it was a miracle, a UFO battle, or something else entirely. What do you think really happened that day?
So what the heck happened?
I don't know. I think I've heard about this before, and so like I think that definitely could have been some kind of Satan letting out kind of experience or something, man. I mean, like that could have been I mean, there was that drawing that did that, but I think there was like two. I think there was another person that drew some pictures and talked about it. I'm not quite sure. But it's really interesting, like that whole topic. There was also another thing that was, talked about where there was like some destruction, and there was like people all saw these UFOs and they drew these glowing UFOs in their paintings. But like our writings related to this kind of event, like there's not a whole lot about it. So it's like, what was it? I don't know.
If you look up like a lot of paintings from that time too, like a lot of paintings from that exact same era, they all have red
UFOs.
Skies, and they all have red skies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even kidding. Like you can look up almost any painting from that era. So many of the paintings that are available during that time, like I'm talking solid red skies in all of the backgrounds in outside areas. It's so bizarre. It's like the only time period where there's that many paintings that all have solid red skies.
Well, the one thing to consider is that I often cite Gunnar Heinsohn about the 700 years being added to the first 1,000 years AD. But there's alternate theories about there being 1,000 years added. So what if you subtracted 1,000 years from 1561, and you're getting right in close to like 536 AD, where you have cosmological signs, the sun turning dark, maybe the moon turning to blood, pestilence, plague, you got famines, you got a mini ice age and all this stuff. Because the curious thing and the very suspect thing in my mind is the fact that you don't have a lot of details about these kind of stories. Like you would think that you would get tons of writings about all that stuff. In 1561, like wouldn't there be lots of people to write about it?
You would imagine, but there isn't a whole lot. And then we've got these paintings, and so it's like it's kind of weird. It's like definitely like they're missing something. Like they've removed some aspect of our history, it seems.
That story is it's unique, but it's similar to stuff that has been described. I think we showed a video about like the 1800s when there was also some kind of a massive astronomical issue or something like that, like meteor showers and weird events. And then you have like the great earthquakes with like the Was it the Madrid fault line in America broke forth and stuff like that, and there was massive earthquakes? You wonder if there was some kind of conflation between some of these events. If, again, we mentioned this from the very beginning of the Little Season research, is that these events are so world-changing that they're impossible to totally hide. So what the devil might do in a Little Season, he would change the order of events or when these things, or maybe he would take the same event and he would put it in different timelines. Because when you only have like a line or two about it, you only got a painting to reference it. Well, who really knows when it happened or what happened?
It's very unusual.
Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit. I got a video that I just think is a funny video. I think it's an interesting video. I think Brian will have a lot to say about this, hopefully.
Imagine pooping so hard that you accidentally turn yourself into an artistic genius. Okay, crazy hook, but completely true story. Back in 2001, this guy named Tommy McHugh was sitting on the toilet, and when someone knocked on the door, he attempted to evacuate his bowels too quickly, accidentally blowing 2 blood vessels on both sides of his brain. He ended up in a 10-day coma, but when he finally woke back up, he instantly realized something just felt off. In the 51-year-old's own words, my head was suddenly full of rhymes and images and pictures. I looked out of the window and the tree was sprouting numbers. Although Tommy had just been a builder before and had never even had the smallest interest in art, he quickly started only speaking in rhymes, writing poetry, and also making these elaborate paintings of what he was now seeing in the world. He actually soon began drawing for up to 19 hours a day and genuinely enjoyed it, since everything now struck him as beautiful and cosmically meaningful. But since Tommy still had no idea what was going on, he eventually wrote to several neuroscientists who ran tests on him and realized that while most people's frontal lobes filter the raw sensory data we receive from our surroundings, Tommy's injuries accidentally blocked this filter, allowing him to see and hear much more. Although he had previously lived a violent life with a long history of drug abuse and had even gone to prison, this injury actually helped him and made him unusually emotional and unable to hurt anyone anymore. And Tommy later said, "The most wonderful thing to happen to Tommy McHugh is having a stroke while doing a poo. It's given me 11 years of a magnificent adventure."
Moral of the story, poop more.
Poop
Or
your
it's
brains out.
not that hard though, because you could bust brain vessels, is what they were saying. You
Be
could
careful when you
stroke
poop
out.
then. That's the lesson. Be careful when you poop. Be very careful.
What do you think about that, Brian?
I mean, I think that's an interesting form of savant syndrome. And, its possibility is that, he could have essentially died in that aspect. And, when people get close to death, they kick on this savant syndrome aspect of your brain. And it does connect different parts of your brain, like activate to try to bridge the gaps that have been damaged. And when that happens, it opens up other doorways in your mind. And so, like, who knows? Like, what if he's like, opened up some different pathway that's created this response, or who knows what kind of demonic thing is attached to him from it? I don't know.
I agree with that. I mean, I'm definitely not a savant, but I will say, like, I'm very much a feeler, and I see and hear everything. In fact, like my audio visual.
Do you write most of your music when you're on the toilet?
I have. I'm not gonna lie. I have before in the past, but I will say that to Brian's point, I've had a lot of near-death experiences, and I'm not just talking about the ones where like I almost died, but like I was physically safe. When I was younger, I had extremely bad asthma, and there were points in time where like I was purple and blue, and I was like like barely breathing. And my first experience at 5 was hearing the doctor basically tell my mom that they weren't sure if I was going to make it. And so a lot of things have happened that like have shifted me and the way that I see things and feel about things and look at things. And I just keep my mouth shut most of the time, but like it became very apparent to me at an early age that I don't see things and understand things the same way as most people. So I do think that there's a correlation to that. I don't know exactly what took place, but it definitely caused me and forced me to see the deeper things in life and to try to understand the deeper things, like the surface level things. Like I've always seen them as an illusion. But it's not like that guy where like I visually can't see them. That's wild.
Well, I want to get into the idea that this guy became an artistic genius. If you saw the
Savant.
the artistic renderings he did, they were crap. I mean, he might have liked to start painting after that, but they were not impressive. There was no genius in there. And I thought was really suspicious about this video that the guy didn't read the numbers that he kept on seeing. You see, he looked up at the window and see the tree was sprouting numbers 3, 6, 9. Then I started talking in rhyme. Right? And then you see the pictures, some of the stuff he's doing.
Oh, bro. Whoa. Go back to that one with the demonic painting on him. He's like painted himself. Yeah, bro. What is this? Are those
I
tattoos?
think it's a tattoo.
Oh, they're tattoos.
I don't know what that is. Is that a crab or something?
Definitely looks like some demonic sigils. Okay.
So Brian's thinking he came into a relationship with a demon at that point.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, there's this woman that's
Is that genius
demonic.
right there, guys? I'm just saying.
Demonic.
That's
definitely demonic.
It's childlike drawing.
Yeah, for sure. But here's what I will tell you is that there's keep showing us. These are some definitely terrible art styles. And so the when it comes to like their the demonic sort of connection, I mean, if that's his art in the background, it looks terrible. So he just became a retarded art drawing person that thinks he's good at it, at art, basically. And so that seems like what has happened. And but yeah, no, the art aspect, I guess, is subjective. But usually when people get savant syndrome, they usually get some like an amazing ability to do art. I don't know about this guy.
Well, hold your thought about that about art being subjective, because I do have a video about that. Aaron and I talked a little bit about that a little bit last week, and I want to delve deeper into that.
Yeah, sure.
But you know what was also suspicious about his story is that this guy was a heroin addict, drug addict, and then he went to prison too.
Wait,
I can't help but think that there was some kind of, was this guy MK Ultra or something?
Oh,
because,
bro.
You know what I'm saying? Like 369, weird, abstract art, and he also was somebody that would have been a candidate for weird experiments because he was a drug addict in prison.
Wait, let me say one more thing too. There is the what's her name that discovered a lot of the Egyptian things that we have found in the desert were dug up, and they were dug up by one of the most famous archaeologists. She's a woman. I totally blank on her name, but she died. She fell down the stairs apparently and was pronounced dead as a child. And then when she came back to life, she had all these false memories of her being a Egyptian princess. And she went and learned Egyptian, like to speak Egyptian. Like instantly, her mom took her to a museum afterwards. She was pronounced dead. And then after the doctor left, she came back to life instantly. And her parents were mad at the doctor because they pronounced her dead. And then all of a sudden she's back to life. But when she came back to life, she had these false sort of memories attached to her. And they went to a museum, and she saw in the museum a picture of Egypt. And she was like, "That's my home." And the mom's like, "What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean that's your home?" And so they taught the little girl Egyptian, like the language, and she instantly picked it up. And the teacher was profound, but she ended up becoming an archaeologist and went out into the middle of the desert and said, "Dig here. There's a palace here." And she was right. And she's dug up several locations in Egypt this way. Okay. Because the reality is this: demons smell blood and they know when there's trauma, and the trauma of the blood and everything in the situation, a lot of times demons enter in through those traumas and through those damaged parts, or through the blood, or through the death access or whatever. And the demons will get into that person through this trauma and gain access to him. So this little girl died, and the demon attached itself to her. So in the same fashion, this man died through this pooping experience, and whatever demon attached to him. And then now it's giving him this sort of different perspective of reality. Like, that's common. Like, this is how demons get into people. Like, it's very, like, traumas create holes that demons attach to. So I'm not, impressed at all. It's like, okay, yeah, dude, it's probably something demonic attached to you. Could be a rewiring of the brain, though, too, at the same time. And maybe your brain's, like,
could be
itself.
Could be all the above. But I absolutely think demons, bro. But check this out. So this this gets into the idea of objective and subjective art.
C.S. Lewis warned that modern art was getting worse and being corrupted by people claiming that art was a subjective medium rather than an objective medium like science or mathematics. He said that once art becomes subjective, it allows the person creating the art to use it for whatever means they want, meaning that they can infuse art with whatever propagated message they want to infuse it with, and use it to push their own worldview rather than pursue the beauty and truth of the world and expand their own knowledge. He believed that it was an artist's job to remove themselves entirely and receive the world and then reflect it back through the beauty of their created art, rather than confirming their own worldview through their art and then anyone who disagrees with that worldview being able to say that their opinion doesn't matter because art is subjective. He would argue that the entire world agrees that Leonardo da Vinci was a great artist because art is objective and we can all agree when something is truly beautiful. However, when art is perceived as subjective, it leads to more division rather than uniting people through the beauty and truth of the artwork. But the question is, do you agree with him?
Totally agree. Totally agree. And not only that, when it becomes subjective, that's when the CIA gets a hold of you and invents people like Jackson Pollock.
Hold that thought.
Oh, okay.
That video's next.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
good. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you agree, because I think this comes into what we experience today. And obviously this is older than today, but the idea of like, we have subjective truth. You know, we believe in this audience that truth comes from God. So truth is objective. So this truth comes from heaven, and it's a higher standard than what we hold as our view and our opinion. But the thing is, when we can see something that's aesthetically beautiful, like the world God's created. I mean, the thing is, like, some of the best paintings are just images of nature, just images of like the sea, mountains, the sunset, the stars in the heavens, things that God created. So our God is a God of order. He created a beautiful place for us, for his creation. And so when people say, oh, well, this is just beauty's in the eye of the beholder, BS. Like, there might be shades of like, well, you might favor one painting over the other, but we're talking about like when somebody's a really great artist, kind of like when we talk about the statues that were created supposedly in the Dark Ages, we can objectively say, that is amazing. Those things are impressive. They look anatomically correct. Everything, all the details. It's like, we just know that you've seen something that is a masterpiece. Versus like the statues they create today. Now, you can't tell me that Dwayne Wade statue that we were clowning on a couple years ago, you can't tell me that's objectively on the level of like Leonardo da Vinci's or Michelangelo's David. It's just not. And if you say that they are, you're just wrong. There's truth, and then there's lies.
Yeah.
All the art now is made to propagate a lie, and what they said is cause division, not causing unity and people coming together.
Masterpiece can be looked at by literally anybody and agreed that it's a masterpiece. It's kind of like being in a place that has absolutely gorgeous scenery, like natural. It's like anyone you bring there's going to be like their breath's going to be taken away. They're going to be like, this is unbelievable. It's not subjective. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
exactly.
Obvious. It's like I said, it's like a beautiful sunset.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to agree, okay, that's pretty cool.
100%.
Like a rainbow and all that stuff. Like, we just know like that's beautiful.
Unless you're Gollum.
Yeah, well, unless you're like a literal demon. Right. You would like the opposite of it. You would invert things. And so this is a really interesting video showing basically that what Brian was alluding to is the idea that all this modern art is an op. Like most things are.
Things are worse now than they were before. It doesn't matter if it's a painting or architecture or design, the guardrails and the street lamps and the park benches. Everything has been stripped of any sort of design or cultural identity or artistic integrity. It's just gone in the name of efficiency. Like, dude, you can look at a Van Eyck painting from 600 years ago. And if you looked at it, you'd be like, there's no way someone painted this. And then you look at a painting today, you'd overhear at least one person say, wow, my granddaughter who's 4 could paint this, you know? Something has happened.
Something definitely happened.
We are dumber and less talented for sure. And it's not good. And don't get me wrong, I love modern. I mean, you've seen my home. Like, I love the like modern.
Yeah, your home is sweet, dude.
I can't deny like the origin of where a lot of it came from. Modern abstract art specifically was commissioned by the CIA. It was during the Cold War.
Here we go.
But look it up, dude. I'm really not kidding. Okay. The CIA,
look it up.
I'm telling you, dude, the CIA during the Cold War used modern abstract art as a form of cultural propaganda. It was a covert program initiated in the late 1940s and 50s, sought to weaponize culture and destroy ideology, promoting abstract expressionism. This is where Jackson Pollock comes from, and even artists like Mark Rothko and William de Kooning and like all these people that do these kind of like non-representational works. They were funded and promoted from the government. They did it on purpose because like old art used to represent things like religion and things like family and self-portraits and culture. And then they just turned it into like colors and shapes and like whatever. And we didn't have art like that beforehand. Yeah. And it's another reason why, if you go and look at paintings from hundreds of years ago, they're significantly better than now.
Now I know why.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm any better for knowing why, which is exactly my argument for being blissfully
I know,
unaware.
dude. I'm sorry I do this to you every week.
Some of those old paintings are so intricate. There's a group of people that believe that they had AI tools and like Photoshop and stuff back then to do some of that stuff. Cause they're just like, how in the world? Of course, there's the other opinion or option, which is that they had other tools available to them and they were far more sophisticated than we thought they were back then.
I don't know. I don't think that there was like, I think I look at the paintings and it's like, for me as an artist who's painted a lot of stuff, like to me, it's like, oh, that dude spent a lot of time. So to me, I'm just like, dude looks like he spent a lot of time painting something, you know? I'm not as impressed with art stuff, but I don't know. I have a different opinion.
Right. Well, I mean, again, like objectively, if you look at the Sistine Chapel and you see the painting on the ceiling,
on the ceiling is unusual.
Like, who's not impressed with that?
The ceiling paintings is very difficult and unusual. Like, to be completely honest,
it doesn't matter if it was painted on the ceiling. And I think that's the thing is like you get into all these old homes and things like that where they have in these old museums and stuff like that, these old public buildings where they have these grand murals on the ceiling. But even if they're painted straight on the wall, the detail and all the things that make you, again, like the art does make you kind of feel a certain kind of way. It gives you a vibe.
It's the colors, it's the design, it's the curves. Like it's all, there's so many things to it, but it's a pleasant feeling when you look at it. Like you get a good feeling from it.
I don't know. You see, I don't even care if it took the guy his whole life to do something like that. It's still impressive because it's like it's a dedication to what you're doing. And I do think that, you know, you kind of do all things unto the Lord. If you did it for a good reason, then it's impressive to me that somebody would have the time or they would they'd have the care that goes into making that. The point is, those kind of works are still marveled about today.
I think the sculpture things are amazing.
Well, no, but it's the same thing. It's
the
point is like you're more impressed because that's probably not something you do versus something you do.
Yeah, I guess
still there's an appreciation for great art in the same way that it goes into like the idea of like he showed the buildings now versus the buildings then, and we just showed last week the Obama Presidential Library in Chicago. It's hideous. It's hideous. It makes you feel a certain way, and it's not a good way. Versus seeing the cathedral in Milan, St. Patrick Cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes you feel like, wow, people are capable of so much more than this. Now, what Aaron was talking about though,
that's why they attributed the artwork to the angels. That's why it was Michelangelo.
Well, that's what I was going to get
Michael
into.
the angel. It was like, or Donatello. Tello is Elohim. So it was Don, the angel of the dawn. That's what Donatello is like. And it's like Michelangelo. They attributed these work of arts that were so phenomenal to angels making it. Rafa. It's Rafa.
Well, Raphael
Elohim
was an angel.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like all of these things, these names, they're all the old painters. We did an episode on it where I kind of broke a lot of them down on our channel on the Demon Racers thing, I think. And then we broke down through all the painters, and they literally are all the names. These are all angels that they attributed this artwork to because they were so well done, you know? So it is interesting.
Well, again, it's like whether that was a literal thing that what we kind of speculate about in that podcast was the idea that, yeah, the name Michelangelo, it does sound like Michael the Angel.
Well, his real name
it's kind of like the root of the name. So
his full name is not Michelangelo. It's Michelangelo de Victorio. It's Michael Angelo de Victorio something, whatever. It means Michael the Archangel, victorious warrior, good builder. Buenanotte.
Right, so
that's his name.
So the question is was that a real man, or was that later people seeing a painting and saying, "Well, who did that?" Well, that's from Michael the Angel did that.
Yep, he never signed any of his paintings. He never signed them.
And what man has been able to paint like that since then?
Yeah, I mean, he never signed them.
Not Jackson Pollock.
Definitely not Jackson Pollock.
Not Picasso. You know, that was another one that
Picasso was actually a really good artist before he became Picasso, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that, but Picasso could paint really well, and then he became it was like he gave up.
Got
it was
syphilis and cut his ear off and all that stuff.
No, that's different. That's not Picasso. That was
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Yeah, but whatever.
But Picasso was a really good artist, and then he just gave up painting good art and started doing this stupid stuff. It was like the demon came into him and was like, "No, we're gonna corrupt you." Did
you guys know Van Gogh was a Christian?
What's that?
Did you guys know Van Gogh was a Christian?
I did not know that.
No,
okay, so
you should look into that. No, Van Gogh studied and he wanted to be a monk, but he was a Christian, and you can actually find Christian overtones in a lot of his paintings. One of his paintings actually has a depiction of the 12 disciples and Jesus in this little area in Paris, I think it is, and Jesus is serving everybody. He's a server and he's serving everybody. And they're saying that in his later years, when things started to get big for him, that's when he started getting tormented. But yeah, there is plenty of evidence to support that Van Gogh was a believer.
I think he was tormented, demonically possessed, potentially. See the AI. Wait. Go back to the AI one of him, because the AI one I think was better. Go back.
Come on,
two more.
Brian.
Go back 2 more.
No.
That one. That one. That one's AI, but that one looks way better than his art. That looks like, dude. That looks like a freaking. I don't know. I'm judgmental, I guess, of this. I like.
All right, but anyways, I think Picasso. I saw a video about this that when you hear that name, you think this person must have lived back in the times of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. Didn't he die in the 70s?
Yeah, pretty recent.
Yeah.
Same thing with what's his name? Not Van Gogh. The dude that painted the melting clocks. Oh my gosh, how am I drawing a blank on his name? The dude that brings all the surrealism. Very good. With the mustache. Starts with a D. Forget his name. I don't know. I'm drawing blank.
Salvador Dali.
Salvador Dali.
Salvador Dali. That's right.
Yeah, that guy. He also died fairly recent. I think he lived to the 80s too, into the 80s or something.
Anytime I hear about Picasso, I think about the pictures from that Rothschild dinner that are everywhere. Because there's pictures of him there.
What about this? What about this picture? What does this represent? Does this represent when things got melted?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's kind of cool though. It's kind of just look how the clock is melting out of the ocean or whatever that is.
Uh-huh.
And then it's time is subjective. I guess he's saying time is, we don't know where.
I think he's saying
is.
time was subjective after the little season began.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation.
Got melted.
Exactly.
And since these interpretations are subjective, you can't really say that I'm wrong. Okay, I got another video it's very similar in the way that we were just showing great works of art, and we were showing works of art that were not so great. But another art form is movies. They're not getting any better.
Almost everyone admits that films and shows keep getting worse, yet few have worked out why. Christopher Nolan has confirmed Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy in his coming Odyssey, and people initially thought Elliot Page was cast as Achilles. One battle after another, which turned left-wing revolutionary violence into spectacle, was showered with praise and awards by the prestige class. Star Wars, which once hit the culture like a tidal wave, has been run into the ground. Marvel spent over a decade building to Endgame's climax, then shoehorned a weightless "she's got health" talking point into the final scene. The list does not end. The decline you sense is real, and the cause is simple. Art has become propaganda. Here's how to tell them apart. If the politics serves the story, it is art. If the story serves the politics, it is propaganda. Orwell said it plainly. All art is propaganda, but not all propaganda is art. Those who corrupt our culture's sacred stories like to claim, these stories are made up, so we can make them however we like. Except that is not true. A myth is the moral reflection of a people. Stories are where a culture stores what it has learned across centuries about what builds a functioning world and what wrecks it. That is why Helen cannot be whoever the studio finds convenient. Our oldest stories do two jobs at once. They remind us what was sacrificed to build the world we inherited, and they carry the shared sense of good and evil that no equation on a chalkboard could ever teach. Tell a people its myths are arbitrary, and you have already begun to unmake them. Look closely and you notice the rewriters never actually build anything. Tolkien, who gave us one of the greatest stories ever told in The Lord of the Rings, understood this. Evil cannot create or give life. It can only mock, distort, and corrupt what already exists. So, they do not author new myths that earn their place. They take the stories we love and drive them into the dirt to serve their politics. And the people setting the mandates know exactly what they are doing. Stalin called writers the engineers of human souls, and every totalitarian movement in history has subverted the culture, because culture is where the spirit of a society is set. A quota deciding what faces must appear in which stories is soul engineering from above. Films and shows decay because the filmmaker and the audience no longer share one experience of what it means to be human. Instead, the filmmaker stands as the lecturer and the audience as a class to be schooled in their ideology.
Definitely agree. Definitely agree. That seems like a lot of propaganda has been pushed into our world. This is why I don't watch movies, bro. I don't watch movies and I don't pay attention to this stuff or even listen to music, because it's just like, dude, it's all just messaging.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, we mentioned last week that because you weren't there, we were sharing the gospel that was in the Lord of the Rings, like the good message that's in there. And no, but I think it is like, especially it's cool that it was Tolkien who said that evil does not create. It only inverts, it mocks and corrupts what is. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. Like, that's exactly what it's showing with the artwork and then into the movies, where you take something that was once some kind of a form that would bring people together, and then you turn it into a mockery and inversion. And now it's like, I gotta admit, I'm one of these people that from the longest time, like, I enjoy watching breakdowns of movies I hate on YouTube. So what's actually bringing us together is the fact that so many people hate this movie. And it's like, they don't even understand like why they don't like it until somebody can really kind of explain it. And you realize that this is the agenda here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the idea why, like, how does like Disney take a franchise like Star Wars and just wreck it?
Because they put in messages. They try to pump it full of propaganda messages, and they don't keep true to the story or the lineage of where it's going. And it's just like, that's why part 2s of every movie suck. You know, it's like they'll make a part 2 of a movie that already was super successful, and it's always like terrible. It's because they try to slide in messages and everything.
Well, for one, it's a straight money grab. Like a lot of times they have one good story, and then they're just going to do this one more bigger and do the same thing, make the jokes more cringe, but the same jokes. No, but that's what I was saying, is that you have, like, you know, executives and smart people, smart business people working for these companies. They have to know that they're going to make a turd when they're making one, but they make it anyways. You know, like when all your fans are saying, just do it like this. Like, you remember that one movie you made? We like that one. Just do something similar to that. Just keep the story true to like the original characters and the original reason we like this movie. And they said, nah, we're not doing that. We're going to put a chick in it. We're going to make it gay and you're going to hate it. But we're going to do it anyways. And that goes against all their best financial interests in this. All your stockholders are going to suffer. Even these people have like an obligation, like legally, fiduciary, to make their stock worth more. So the reason they do it is like going all the way back to those 3-letter agencies that are creating bad art on purpose. It is the idea that, yeah, this world, the elites are controlled by the devil, his angels, demons, and so they don't have the ability to create. So they really only want to invert, mock, and corrupt and make things that, yeah, again, that brought us together, pull us apart. Because like I said, regardless of these like kind of pagan myths, we often talk in this, you know, Brian and I both agree about this, is that these pagan myths come from some kind of a true place. And not all the stories are bad. Like, you know, like these kind of a hero, like a hero's journey story is a good, uplifting story. Regardless if it's, you know, it identifies like the one true God in it. It's like because these stories come from like the truth that I think that came from the Gospels. And so we recognize in our souls that there is that message in there. And so this is what resonates with us. And this makes us want to aspire to more. And instead they said, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to make you hate it. And then so when you leave the theater, you're like, you're frustrated and you're mad. And you don't have like that good feeling. You have a negative feeling and you look at the world and it may be a more bleak way.
Yeah. You know, I'd say that it's really interesting the way that they try to pervert our messaging all the time. Like Toy Story 1 was a movie that I watched when I was a kid and I was like, this is amazing. And then Toy Story 2 was hilarious and it was like funny, but I think they're on 5 now, I guess. And I guess in 5, they have Buzz Lightyear wearing a dress. I haven't seen it, but apparently he like gets married and wears a dress because of like this funny scene in part 1 where he was in a dress actually, and he thought he was Mrs. Nesbit. And so part 5, they put him in a dress again, I guess. I don't know. And it's just like, and they put all this like trans stuff where they made, he gets married to, I guess, Jesse or something, one of the characters. And Jesse ends up being like a masculine. She plays the masculine role, and Buzz becomes like this womanized thing. He's just like so they took this masculine dude that was originally the Star Command. Hello, Star Command. And now he's like a little woman in a dress. And it's like, bro, like they just, like, what is going on? Like they're just emasculating people, and it's totally gone from like funny, entertaining to like this mess. I mean, there's always been propaganda in it, even at the subtle levels, but it's like the propaganda is just like overboard at this point. And it's just so like, it's like in your face, drastic. They said something else they put in the movie. Somebody else was mentioning, put in the comments all the terrible things in that movie. Because apparently there was a lot of like terrible stuff in the Toy Story 5 that was like so perverted and like just like trans based and like terrible.
Well, it kind of fits like the MO of like what we describe as like the way that like the Disney Channel would take and Nickelodeon would take these innocent, talented kids. And then we kind of watch when they are, you know, like I think for the most part, they're pretty innocent. And then when they grow up, they turn like, okay, now I'm a woman now. And then of course they're dressing like harlots and they're singing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? So you're subverting a whole generation that's kind of growing up with them. And so if they're seeing them as cool, then when they make that shift, the goal is to make the culture shift with them.
That's magic.
So maybe it's the same way with like a Toy Story. It's like it starts off relatively good, and then each movie they start adding more and more. And before you get to yes, Toy Story 5, it does not resemble the original movie and has nothing to do with other than the characters that remain the same. The story is totally different. It's totally contrary to like the original message.
Super, super disturbing, but that's what they're doing with our culture all the time now.
Okay, let's shift gears dramatically. I want to go back to, I did tease stuff that's like under the ground. again, my favorite subject about there's so many mysteries of the things that don't make a lot of sense, especially in America. Now, check this video out. This is one of these stories where I know this guy's presenting the facts, the way the history tells us, but I just don't buy it. Check this out.
Did you know that Cincinnati has the largest abandoned subway tunnel system in the United States? That's right, folks. It's not New York City, Boston, or Chicago. Cincinnati, Ohio. Beneath the streets of downtown, miles of massive concrete tunnels and fully built underground stations have been sitting untouched for nearly 100 years, ready to move thousands of people a day like you'd see in New York City or Chicago, but not a single passenger ever stepped aboard. Now, the construction of these tunnels began in the early 1920s, but before the system could ever officially open, progress started to slow down. And then it stopped entirely in 1929. And somehow all of it was left behind, sealed beneath the city, frozen in time, today sitting exactly as it was 100 years ago when construction workers walked away. You see, back at that time, Cincinnati was actually one of the largest and fastest growing cities in the entire country. In fact, in the earliest part of the 1900s, it was one of the 10 largest cities in the United States. Bigger than Los Angeles, bigger than Houston, bigger than Dallas. Its population had exploded in the late 1800s as factories, river commerce, and railroads turned Cincinnati into a major industrial powerhouse. Tens of thousands of people poured into the city for work, the streets became crowded, traffic slowed to a crawl, and city leaders believed that the future depended on building a modern subway system beneath the city, one that could carry Cincinnati into the next century. But just as construction got underway, everything began to unravel. The price of the project skyrocketed as inflation surged after World War I, far exceeding the original budget and draining the city's funding. Political support collapsed, momentum faded, and when the Great Depression hit in 1929, any remaining hope of finishing the subway vanished overnight. Work came to a sudden halt, and the tunnels were left exactly as they were, built but never used. And today, over 100 years later, those tunnels are still down there, hidden in complete darkness beneath the modern-day streets of Cincinnati. Cars pass overhead, buildings rise and fall, and hundreds of thousands of people pass through the city each day, completely unaware of the massive, unfinished subway system that's sitting silently beneath their feet.
How about that?
That's interesting.
Did you notice the contradiction in that story?
Which one?
The contradiction specifically about how this project was started in 1920. And then later, one of the problems was the skyrocketing cost of materials because of inflation after World War I. You guys know when World War I ended, right?
Yeah. In like 1912 or something, right?
I think it was like 1917.
Yeah.
So the whole project began after World War I. So what are we even talking about? Wasn't this the Roaring 20s? I thought that was it was a time of like excess, right? Until the Great Depression hit. So they started this project. And again, within 10 years, they got a lot done, I guess. And then they said, whatever, we're just going to leave it abandoned. It's never going to be used. Kind of reminds me of like the story of like the Denver airport, that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars for this underground like baggage thing that was under there, automated baggage claim section, and never worked, and they didn't even fix it. They just said whatever.
Yeah, they built massive underground chambers, bigger than the actual airport itself. You can still find the pictures online. Massive. And then I don't remember what the official word was, but it was like, oh yeah, this is unusable. This isn't gonna work the way we thought it was gonna work. And then so they just built on top of it. There is a Taiwanese facility that's about 20 minutes from my house. In fact, we all drove by it when we were on one of the freeways, getting to one of the other freeways. And they built, I want to say like 20 stories at least underground at this place. And my uncle at the time was working for a concrete pouring company, and he was on the job and got hired to go in there, and they drove this thing in there and to pour the concrete way down below. And he was like, there is a whole city down there. He was like, they've got like living quarters. There's a McDonald's. There's like all of this stuff. And like, it was all built there, of course, before they built everything up top, because that's the way you would do it. But man, that stuff is so fascinating to me. That stuff is so fascinating to me.
I can't wrap my mind around it. Even, like knowing the history that I've been taught is that during the Great Depression, you had Roosevelt, FDR, he put in something called the New Deal, right? And so during the Great Depression, they had all these massive public works projects during that time, supposedly to give people jobs to do. So that's when we're told they built the Hoover Dam, right? So like, it doesn't seem justifiable during the Great Depression they could do that, but supposedly it was kind of like, probably like, the Federal Reserve was relatively new still. They printed a bunch of money and they turned the money printing machines on burr, and then they did lots of things. So like, why wouldn't the New Deal kick Cincinnati any money to finish that? Like, how do you get that far into it and not bother finishing it? Because don't you think it would have been worth it in the long run? Because at that point, they're pretty invested already.
That's why the government does not work for the people and is not the ones we should be entrusting to handle anything, because the government sucks.
Yeah, I just think it's a situation where there was tunnels. There's tunnels under every major city.
I agree with that.
Including Cincinnati. And they tell us now that they're just abandoned subway system. It's the same similar situation in like New York, where obviously they do have a very integral part of their city is the subway system. But they say that there's tons of areas where they're abandoned.
I've been in a lot of like tunnels and underground stuff that I've like gone exploring with my friends and stuff. And always when you're in these tunnels, you always find demonic sigils on the walls, spray painted, or like just like weird demon stuff all over them. Like every time I've gone into like tunnels and stuff, you'll see like spray painted demonic stuff. Like they'll like write 666 or hell on the wall, or literally draw demon sigils. So it is kind of weird, honestly. It is kind of weird going through this stuff and exploring and seeing that everywhere. And you're like, why would they write that? Like, I've always been like, when we were exploring as kids and stuff, we would go in like these places and stuff. And I would always be like, why would they spray paint that? Who thought I'm going to buy a spray can and go deep into this tunnel and then spray paint something demonic on the wall? Like what? Like, it's so unusual, but it is weird. It is definitely
Well, the
weird.
darkness hates the light, and so it's like, of course, it would make sense that the further down you go in darkness, the more the demonic would influence, right? And that would be the place that people would want to go to do demonic stuff, because it's in secret, it's hidden, it's in the dark, it's away from the light. Makes perfect sense to me. But yeah, that is an interesting correlation, and you can also feel it too, because I've been in some places like that as well and explored different things. Like a couple of times on tour, we'd be in different places. And we would always find the weirdest, like off the beaten path kind of areas, and we would explore that stuff all of the time. I've got some sketchy stories from doing that, but same. We would see creepy stuff like that.
Yeah.
You'd find like ripped clothes and like just one shoe, and just weird things. And it's like, dude, come on. Like how does someone just leave one shoe willingly, and then they leave with only one shoe? Really? Like what?
Dude, right?
You can feel the heaviness though in some of those places. You can just feel the oppression. It's insane.
When you find the shoes, that always freaks me out, because I found a shoe once before, and it's just like, I'm like thinking, how did they leave this place?
Right.
Which there's glass I walked over. Like, and I'm like thinking, there's no freaking way. Why is there one shoe here? And it like,
creepy.
Bro, it's so creepy when you find shoes, because you know that's like somebody got killed or something. And it's like,
or ran so fast from something. But like even still, it's like it's so freaking weird, man.
Dude, if you guys ever find shoes in caves, my advice is get out.
Call Tom Hanks. Oh
yeah. Call Tom Hanks, who takes photos of it, so you can take some photos of missing gloves. Bro, dude, just every time.
Well, that's the thing. It's the same thing where people now today say, when they use these tunnels to run booze during Prohibition. Well, again, the tunnels being there have nothing to do with what they were used for later, like in modern times. So what they're used for now is, obviously be the worst things you could possibly imagine, or worse than you can imagine. that would go on down there. Because you know what? There's a really interesting story. We didn't get to it recently, but did you hear about all those kids that came out of the sewer in New York?
Yeah, the Jewish kids, you mean?
No, I think he's talking about a different one. There's surveillance footage of them. 3 people, I believe.
There was one where a whole group of Jewish kids got lost in the
I
got
saw
lost
that
in
one.
tunnels.
Yeah, that's the story. But dude, so creepy.
So yeah, something.
Where's my video about that? I had a video about that.
I saw
So
a video
unusual.
about the video you're talking about, JT, and they like broke it down, and they were trying to say that those were holographic projections of people. They weren't actually people
What?
going into the cave and coming out. Yeah, because their bodies glitched. Like if you slow it down and watch it, like there's certain parts where their bodies glitch and things change on what they are. And if you think about it, like I don't know, I know you don't watch movies, Brian, but the last couple of Mission Impossible movies are very telling in terms of like where we're going. It deals a lot with AI. And one of the things that they do with the AI is in order to get past the AI facial recognition, someone goes in and hacks the software and they change it to where when it sees Tom Cruise's character, it changes his whole body to look like someone else. His face and everything. Like it's like in real time, it's changing him to look like someone else.
Wow.
And so when
On
I
a
saw that
camera
video,
or something?
yeah, through cameras. So like whatever feed people are watching or whatever's being recorded, they're seeing something as if it's happening in real life. But like before that happens, they're being swapped out
Wow.
with another person. Which, I mean, come on, dude. If they can do what they can do currently with software, of course they could do something like that. So that's what I think that's what this person was trying to say, is that those people were being swapped out. So either they were different people, or it could have been something demonic. But my guess is, I mean, it very well still could have been demonic. But I'm thinking that what it was like the people that actually did it didn't want to be identified. And so they got swapped out because the guy, he was showing like glitches in like digital glitches in the surveillance footage that was presented to us of these.
So I don't know what this video is. So I don't know what
It'll
it
make
is.
sense when you see it. But it's not like readily, like you can't like readily tell that it's glitchy. Like it looks real. It looks like, and it could be. I don't know.
Okay, I got the video. Let's check this out, and you guys can make up your own minds.
Not suspicious at all. All the kids they found lost in those tunnels under Nyack, New York. Also not suspicious at all that they kept saying that dozens of girls were found lost in the tunnel system under New York. It's not 50, 60, it's 71. 71 kids, all girls, got lost under a tunnel system under Nyack, New York. 71 kids get lost underground who were never supposed to be underground in the first place. What were the adults saying who were supposed to be watching them? Oh, they were supposed to be at Nyack Memorial Park, which is about an hour north of New York City. Don't worry, the Mayor Joe Rand showed up and he was like, there's nothing really suspicious about this. Has it ever happened before? No. Yes, it was all girls. Yes, they were all Orthodox Jews. Yes, they were underground where they weren't supposed to be, but they had just stumbled upon an underground tunnel system. What tunnel system is under Nyack, New York? The tunnel system is culverts your water and sewage runoff go into. So these girls who were supposed to be at a park, 71 of them, then found a culvert system big enough for them to all go into, and they all entered it. Also not suspicious at all is that after these girls got lost, no one notified authorities saying they were missing 71 kids. The only reason a search began was because one of those girls found a way out and then got help to go get the rest of them. Adults at the scene talking about how the girls were just happy to be getting out of there. I bet Mayor's doing a fabulous job playing the whole thing off, letting everyone know that he is now reviewing safety measures for this tunnel system and reminding residents that it's not for recreational use. Continuing to refer to the 71 missing children that no one knew was missing until one found her way out as dozens of young girls. That they simply saw the culvert, saw it was a cave, and thought, let's go check it out. For all of these girls' sake, I really do hope this was just a massive group of girls with no responsible adults around who decided to go wandering into a cave, and that there is actually nothing genuinely harmful going on. Hearing that over 50 girls were missing that no one ever reported as missing turned out to be underground is horrifying.
So that's not the video I was talking about, but that's
the one I was talking
about.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yes. Yeah, that's wild. You know, there's other people breaking it down too. where they supposedly walked in. It's like down in like some kind of creek where like supposedly, again, this is all supposed because we don't know. This is all alleged. I mean, the only thing we know as facts is supposedly, well, the only thing we know as facts is what we're told is that 71 kids who were Orthodox Jewish girls, all dressed up like in their school clothes, walked through some underground tunnels. I guess they got trapped. One of them found their way out, and then the rest of them were escorted out. But the thing that was suspicious based on, well, there's lots of things suspicious, but the main thing that somebody was pointing out is that they come out and they got like, I don't know, they got like kind of dress shoes on and like white socks and stuff like that. If they were splashing around in some dirty sewage system or sewer, wouldn't they all be completely dirty and nasty after they came out? But they came out and they looked like you would never have known if you saw the pictures. I know that girl blacked out their faces and stuff, but you can see.
Well,
them
the girls were
other places.
also hiding their faces when they were coming out. I saw the original video. They would be like, they were like this a lot of times.
Dude, 71 kids is what makes it absolute. Like, the story's crazy enough, but 71 kids makes it like diabolical.
How were
What do you mean 71 kids?
Bro, I don't understand why they were hiding their faces either. Because when they come out, they're like doing this, and they're just like they're doing this. A lot of them.
Maybe they were told.
Why would you
to
be
do that?
embarrassed? Why would you be embarrassed?
Or maybe they
that
were
you-
told to hide their faces.
Yeah, that was instructed.
I mean, the
Something's
thing
not
is,
right.
like,
A
if it
lot
was
of
all,
things are
if it
not
was
right
all
with that.
boys, the story would be more believable that they would go explore some weird cave or tunnel system.
Over 50 of them were girls.
But it seemed like 100% of them. Like, you know,
They
I mean,
were
like,
all
there wasn't
girls.
kids who didn't go in there. Like, all of them went. And I mean, to me, it makes sense if a few of them went and explored this tunnel. But you would think, you know, I can't imagine my daughters saying, "Oh yeah, sure, let's just go check this underground tunnel system out." I think a
Sounds
lot
like
of them
an
would have
MK
said,
Ultra experience.
"No, I'm not. That's sketchy. I'm not doing that."
I was going to say that sounds like one of Brian's hypnosis theories where like
Yep.
somehow they were lured
Yeah.
or hypnotized to believe they should
Was this
go
like
in
a
there.
Pied Piper
Yeah.
situation?
That's
Yep.
exactly what it
Yep.
feels like. It's
Yep.
exactly what it feels like.
That's what it totally seems like to me. I think it's hypnosis. I think it's absolutely MK Ultra kind of thing. And somebody was programming them and they woke up mid tunnel and were like, where are we being led to? What is happening? And freaked out or something.
You know what? I
So-
don't always agree with Brian's hypnosis theories, but this one,
That's the only plausible explanation for this one.
this does seem like a mind control situation.
So
Demons.
I've got the video I was talking about. I'll show you guys.
Okay.
But did you see how like that one kind of glitch? Like the car went directly over that person's arms and whatever the thing they had out.
I don't think it went over it. It was like went by it slightly, but yeah, I know what you mean. It did look kind of glitchy.
But it's like, I
the
don't know, man.
surveillance footage don't look very good. That was just me and my friends, by the way. We were just climbing out of the tunnel. So like, this is
That was Brian when it gets hot. He likes to go into the ground.
But it's like, man, what is going on over there?
There, it seems like some guys just wanted to explore and figured something out. I don't know. That's what I would think.
But that's the video I was talking about where like I saw somebody else. I don't have the other video, but I saw someone else take that and break it down. And like they showed these different digital artifacts in the video where like they were being distorted and it looked like what we were seeing on the surveillance camera wasn't exactly what it actually was. And I don't know if that was I don't know what that means. I just know that like, everything that has to do with like underground stuff is so shady.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all so shady, especially in New York. Did you guys see that one footage of like
the hole in the ground, the Casey Neistat style, where they like, he like put a foot in the hole?
I saw that. But there was another one where there was like a Jewish guy who popped his head out of a grill
behind the
like
the newspaper
like he's
stands.
Pennywise.
But his head went through the grill in the ground.
Yeah, it's like
it went through the metal.
Well, there was a cut in it. There was a cut in that grill.
It didn't look like there was a cut.
Yeah, there was a cut, and it was behind the grill, and that footage actually of him escaping was actually when the tunnels got raided. Remember when they found the mattress with the stain on it with the the brown looking?
Well, that was another
stain.
story that
was the
was
same.
just-
That was the same story.
Just disappeared like a fart in the wind. Nothing
Yeah.
to see here, guys. It's totally fine. This is totally it's a total normal day in New York. Don't worry about it. Oh, but speaking of that, this last video, so you have these young men exploring the sewer system in New York. Now, they could have just been generally curious. Like they could have watched content like ours that says, what's happening under there?
Sure.
And so here's a very similar story about Paris. Because again, we talk about the Paris catacombs a lot, but I don't think people realize how many tunnels are under Paris.
Beneath Paris, there's over 200 miles of underground passageways, hiding secrets that very few people know the truth about.
How many dead bodies are down here? Millions.
That alone was enough to make me curious, so I snuck into the tunnel network through one of the system's illegal entrances. I had just met these guys an hour ago, and now I'm following them underground. With no map I can read, no idea where we're going, just trusting that they know the way.
But I got signals for charging my map.
What happens if the map dies?
The first room we found was called Tetanus. Rusty metal covering the walls, arranged in a way that felt almost intentional.
I assume this is probably not even that crazy either. Probably gets much crazier than this.
There's something you need to know, it's that we are certain of nothing in here. The level of water can change pretty much. Sometimes it can be pretty okay, but sometimes
it can get really high.
Yeah.
A few minutes later, the water is up to my ankles, and then my knees. And as it makes its way up to my waistline, I try to bear the questions in my mind. What else could be in this water? How long has it even been here? And what could possibly be on the other side of this passage? Up ahead is a site where bones cover every inch of the floor, which we'll be exploring in my video tomorrow.
What's the official story on where all of those bones came from?
The rapture.
Millions?
The rapture.
The
official story. The official story is that they Paris was overrun with graves that were causing disease throughout the town, and so they decided that they needed to find a better place to bury them. So they dug up all of the graves and they dried out all their bodies and took just their skull bones and their leg bones and just the important ones and got rid of it. And then they decided to make some special tunnels. They dug very deep, elaborate, complex, special tunnels and with stone and carved into them and built bricks them, and they were such intricate. And then they took those bones from all those dead people and they went into these big elaborate tunnels and then reburied, placed the bones into these tunnels, which is the most asinine, insane, ridiculous narrative that you could ever possibly come up with. No
government has ever cared enough about the people to go through all of that work to keep them safe. That's
well,
crazy.
and so not only that, Brian, that they also stack them in the most insane geometric patterns that make no sense.
A lot of them are Christian patterns, by the way, with crosses and fishes and all kinds of patterns that resemble Jesus.
Yeah, it's so macabre
iconography.
to do that because you expect. I don't know. I mean, again, we don't do things like that today. So it's hard to wrap your mind around people ever doing that. But the catacomb phenomenon, we had a podcast, we talked a lot about that the catacombs under Paris are insane, but it's not isolated to Paris.
No, there's like
so that's
9
the,
major
so that's
ones.
the more sus thing. So this happening one time is highly suspicious, especially when you're talking about bodies in the millions. But when you talk about all these old world cathedrals having catacombs under them, so if there's millions under Paris, how many other bodies around all the rest of the catacombs all around the whole world? Like, how many bodies does that represent? That is crazy eerie. And that's like, again, it's like the same time period that supposedly all this stuff took place.
All the catacombs were kind of around the same time period. And there's 9 major ones. And there's tons of other ones that they never listed as major ones because they got destroyed or they got wiped out or they got built over. I mean, I've got a book that literally talks about one that no longer exists. And there was a massive catacombs from a book from the 1800s I have. And it literally talks about the thing that used to be there and it's no longer there. Like we've got multiple catacombs, and the very fascinating part about the catacombs is majority of them have Christian iconography in them, and you're like, that's weird. Why do they all got Christian iconography in other parts in other countries all over the world with a bunch of dead bones? Because that's the rapture, bro. What's it say? The rapture? It says
where the vultures gather, there the corpse will lie.
Yeah, the vultures ate their bones. And what bones can't vultures eat? Leg bones and skulls. And what do we find in those catacombs? Massive amounts of leg bones and skulls.
Femurs
the things
and skulls.
that the vultures don't eat.
Yeah, me and Brian often like to quote that verse in the Gospel of Luke. I guess is that Luke,
Luke.
chapter, is that 20?
Yeah, I think so, 20, maybe.
I think it's right around there. And so, yeah, when the apostles ask, when Jesus is telling that 2 are going to be in a field, 1 will be taken, 1 will be left, 2 will be in a bed, 1 will be taken, 1 will be left, 2 will be grinding at a mill, 1 will be taken, 1 will be left. And then the apostles ask him, where, Lord, where will they be taken? Where the vultures gather, there the corpse will lie. And so everybody's using that in those Left Behind movies to talk about the invisible rapture that's taking people to heaven. But Jesus is specifically telling them they're taken to a place to be killed and then eaten by birds.
Yeah, bro, it's harpazo is the word, which is where we get the word grape. Can't say it, but you know what I mean. That's where the word comes from. Rapture means
is violently been taken.
It means to be taken away
but
violently by force against your will. That's usually unto death. Okay,
well, I mean, again, in that
what
context, like I said, it is unbelievable that how bad that, again, if the devil does not create anything, he inverts, mocks, and corrupts. So Jesus is describing a warning to people, and then it's being reinterpreted in a way that is the best thing that could ever happen to you.
Yeah.
So
seriously.
it makes you wonder.
It's snatched away. It's snatched away. They're going to be snatched into the clouds. No, bro. It means to be graped violently.
However they were taken, it could have been supernaturally taken. It could have been angels taking them. But they're taken, like in the book of Revelation, chapter 14, it talks about that when the harvest of the earth is ready to be harvested, and he says, take a great sickle, go harvest.
Yeah, the grim reaper. That's where you get the word reap is from the same word.
They're being taken, what it says, the first instance of where it mentions people being taken, they're taken to the great wine press. So it's kind of like they're taken to the valley of Jehoshaphat for this battle of Armageddon. And then all the great ones, great and small, are taken. And then there's this feast of the birds afterwards. So the bodies fall dead on the earth because they're killed in this great war. And then what happens to the bones? Maybe this is an instance of the bones being collected later.
Yep, afterwards, and maybe by the Christians.
Yeah, maybe it was the Christians thought that this is a throwback to the prophecy in Ezekiel about the dry bones. Can these dry bones yet live? Maybe that they were hoping for a second resurrection, and then this is when, or the first resurrection, they were taken down to believe that
I think they could be
reanimated.
I think they respectfully did it, and they took the bones after everyone was dead and just had these caves that maybe the angels built them or whatever, and the Christians just put them in the caves respectfully. But here's the crazy part is, like, you know, JT, remember in the book in the antiquity of not the antiquity of the Jews, America, Discoveries in the West. Do you remember the part where it talks about they came across the place of of eagles. Do you remember them talking about the place where it says they came across the place of vultures? Do you remember that part?
Not sure. Forget.
I think it's in the Antiquities and Discoveries of the West. I think it is. It might be in one of my other books. I don't remember, but it says that the Aztecs basically, or the other name for them, I forget what it's called. But anyways, he talks about their mysteries and their history, and it says that they came unto a place as they were traveling. The Aztec people, they came unto a place.
Aztlan?
Yeah, Aztlan. Yeah, and so they came unto a place full of vultures, a great place full of vultures. And it's like in their mythology, one of the places as they were traveling was a place full of vultures. I just thought that was really weird that there used to be it was written in their story that there is a place full of vultures that they came to and there was a place full of bones. They came to a place full of bones and a place full of vultures.
Well, all the
and
mounds were full of bones
weird.
too. The mounds, lots of the mounds were full of bones too, the Ptolemy. But
they said the land was full of bones, and then there was vultures, and so it's like the vultures ate the bones. It's pretty obvious.
The interesting part about that is the idea of, or the thing that's makes no sense, is why are the bones so clean like that?
Well, unless vultures ate them.
Maybe they were picked clean.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, they would have. I mean, again, the
amount
of work it would take
to
take in a decomposed body and remove 100% of the flesh.
So gross.
I'm saying, why would anyone ever do that?
No, not.
It would make more
practical.
sense if the bones already existed and they just said, well, we can't just get rid of them, so we're just going to take them and stack them. But if it was a bunch of just decaying bodies, they probably would have took them someplace and just burned them.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one more video about
had a
underground
bonfire or bonfire.
No, actually, you know what? Check that. I've got two more videos. I got one because we were talking about catacombs. So here's another interesting video about catacombs.
You guys thought the Paris catacombs were bad. Have you heard of the Palermo catacombs? Okay, so beneath the streets of Palermo, Sicily is one of the most eerie burial sites in Europe, the Capuchin catacombs of Palermo. What began in the 1500s as a way to bury Capuchin monks turned into a massive mummified cemetery. Locals and wealthy citizens paid to be preserved and placed in niches along the underground corridors. Thousands of skeletons and corpses are on display. Some of them dressed in their best clothes and others stand or lie in the niches, and they're all grouped by gender, age, and status. One of the most famous is Rosalia Lombardo, a 2-year-old child whose body, preserved in the 1920s, still looks almost like she's sleeping. The catacombs are a haunting record of death rituals and preservation techniques spanning centuries, which is actually pretty cool, and they attract visitors from all around the world.
And that is creepy, dude. When you really look at these kind of death ritual things, you just think like, man, we don't know anything about our history, because what the heck is that? like
so creepy,
right? Like, what is our history, bro? Like, what is that even?
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, that's way more. That's even more macabre than the Paris catacombs, because the Paris catacombs, I don't know, it's anything having to do with stacked skulls and femur bones is creepy, but that is like on a different level of it. That almost makes me think that whatever was done in Paris, was this trying to emulate that in some kind of way? Because it was not done. It would look like was this a more modern idea? Because that one's
got to be more modern.
You know what I'm saying? Because it looked a little bit more like this looked like a house of horrors.
Well, what happened was first there was the desolation where it's just femurs and skull bones buried everywhere. But then they started, in certain catacombs, started burying these monks in there. And I think those monks were the ones that were burying the femurs and the skull bones. And so then those guys died, and they're like, well, I guess we'll just throw them in the catacombs with their full bodies. So you'll see the full body monks occasionally in those things. So those ones came later. And those guys being full bodied were also ones that had to have come later, because they did that practice of like, oh, well, these are a saint and we got to preserve their body. So when they get resurrected, that they'll have their clothes, their nicest clothes and everything on. You don't want to be resurrected naked.
She was saying after the monks, like the well-to-do wanted to be preserved that way similarly. And so that's what we were seeing. We were seeing like the average citizens down there. But hear me out. This is what it felt like to me when I watched it. That felt like a trophy display.
Yeah, I can see that a little bit.
I can see that for sure.
That honestly felt like a trophy display. That felt like someone sadistic walking through and looking at all of their trophies, all of their catches or deaths or whatever you want to call it. It felt exactly like that because
that's true.
It wasn't because it wasn't paying homage to anybody. There was no plaques above their names. There was nothing in there honoring these people whatsoever. Just putting their bodies in there on display. The story doesn't make sense. That felt like a trophy display to me. That's the vibe it gave me.
Satan's trophy display. Look at all these saints that I've murdered.
That's what it
Well,
felt
you know
like.
what? Okay, so I said I had one more video, but this made me think of this because I shared this with Brian in Postmodern. Because when we had Matt on the podcast, we were talking about that some of the weird, traditions of some of these Orthodox monks and what they wear. And so Matt was mentioning how it was kind of synonymous with some kind of a death of self. But I saw a video about some of their outfits and their rituals. I don't know, guys. Like I said, I'm not throwing shade at anybody who's in like the Orthodox Church, but this is freaky. Check this out.
Uncovering the Origin of Obscure Aesthetics Part 1, the series where I dive into aesthetics you've probably seen on the internet and tell you a little bit more about where they come from and what they've influenced. What you're looking at is called the Great Schema, the absolute highest rank of Eastern Orthodox monasticism, also by far the most extreme. The skull you see here is the skull of Adam. It also represents his own skull. A monk wearing these robes has been ritualistically declared dead. He attends his own funeral and is given a new name while still being very much alive. The old self is buried, and this is what he wears for the rest of his life. Essentially a wearable memento mori. The cloth from which the outfit is made has to be of animal origin. The point being that it was once alive, just like the wearer. It's monochrome, black cloth, white embroidery, sometimes red, sometimes gold. This goes extremely hard. Each robe makes use of the exact same scripture and symbolism. The only thing that changes is the person who hand embroidered the piece. Nothing has changed in over 370 years. This is what happens when you never deviate from the brand guidelines. Absolutely zero design drift, despite being handmade by different people through many different generations. Denmark, the previous creative director of Balenciaga, built an entire show based off his Georgian Orthodox upbringing, where models walked through black water in capes, hoods, and floor-length cassocks. From Eastern Orthodox monasticism to the runway of Paris Fashion Week. Rick Owens draws design inspiration from monkish ethics and monastic devotion, again tying it back to his religious childhood memories. What I'm trying to say is that inspiration is everywhere, and this underlines the power of an enigmatic and elusive aesthetic. We continue to borrow from these silhouettes and symbolism that is hundreds and hundreds of years old. Once something is good enough, it becomes relevant again and again.
Bro, that's demonic, bro. That is demonic.
It sure feels that way. Yeah, looking at that, it makes me seeing those have always made me feel uneasy.
Bro, that is just, I don't even know, man.
And the
that
colors
just feels,
too, right? Like
yeah, red and
black on the black.
Well, just everything.
Well, it's like
and Rick Owens. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
me?
Well,
Like,
I mean,
what
it feels
is
like
that? Ugh.
it feels like an emphasis in the wrong part of our transformation from death into life in Christ. Because you're putting all the emphasis on the death part. But Jesus is promising us life eternal. So it's like, why are you walking around like you're dead?
Dude, freaking
I mean,
weird.
we're supposed to die to ourselves. But I mean, the way I see it is this is sort of a one-time act. When you think about the symbolism in the baptism in water, you go down, the old man dies, and you're brought back a new creation.
To live for him.
To live. Because Jesus says, if you believe in me, you'll have eternal life now. So it's a celebration of life, the way I see it. And that is, I don't think you should get super bad vibes from the people who are like supposedly the closest to God. That's weird.
Bro, you can feel it in your spirit just looking at that. It feels off. And that's the Holy Spirit telling you that it's off. Like, you should listen. Like, that is the Holy Spirit inside of you being like, yo, hey, that's not right. Like, that's why it feels gross and weird and creepy and like, ugh. feels void of like the Holy Spirit, dude. That is not a good feeling. And it's so easy to tell, guys. Like that's why you have to become like a child to hear and see in the Spirit. You have to become like a child. A child ain't going to look at that and go, yeah, daddy, that's great. Look at that. No, he's going to look at it and go, like that's what a kid's going to do. Be a child. Like, bro.
And it's not
like,
so much like just the black, because as you all know, like I enjoy wearing black.
Yeah, exactly.
Mainly just because it's the most flattering, but it's more so
the hood
all
and
of the
looking like a demon.
symbolism. Well, that and just all of this, the symbolism and all of the designs and all of the different. There's so much to it. There's so much to it. Even like the way some of those photos were taken, the way they showed them, like how they were like coming out of the shadows, kind of.
Yeah, and they're like holding like a skull in their hand.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it just. I don't know enough about that to comment on like the facts of it all. I just know the way it made me feel.
Yeah, I'm not going to put skulls on my thing. And funny, they put skull and crossbones. Isn't that funny? Skull and crossbones, that's because that's what the vultures don't eat, the leg bones and the skulls. And so that's a pretty good example that vultures ate something.
Well,
and
then
it's
you have
like,
Skull and Bones.
Yeah,
you know,
the Skull and Bones Society.
Club. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think the reason why they call themselves the Skull and Bones Club and the Skull and Crossbones concept, I think it all stems from vultures eating your bones, and those are the leftovers. Like that's what that comes from.
Could be. Yeah. I guess the thing is when somebody like Rick Owens is borrowing from your wardrobe,
pretty
good
sign.
We know what he is into.
Oh,
yes,
man.
it's just not a good look. Yeah, as you said, like kids would be afraid of them. I mean, as a parent, would you let those monks babysit your kids?
Heck no. Heck no.
Like, well, I mean, so that's the thing is like, so obviously there's no connection with scriptures as far as I can tell that would say, hey, this is what you should try to emulate.
Yeah, thou shalt dress in all black, and thou shalt wear hoods of darkness and red letters with skulls.
When Paul and the apostles are discussing what the Gentiles should do in the new covenant, you should abstain from sexual immorality, the drinking of the blood, and you should also wear all black in goat's clothes.
with
demonic red stitching all over it.
Yeah.
Good grief. Okay, I got one more video because I was saving this one. I thought this was interesting. We can end on this. And this is, I wouldn't say it's, it's a lighter vibe than that last one, of course. Check this out.
We are about to enter the famous initiation well in Quinta da Regaleira. At first glance, it looks like a tower. This is not a tower you climb, it's actually one you descend. The initiation well was never meant to store water. It was designed for ceremony, for symbolism, for experience. It doesn't feel like you're going underground. It feels like you're entering a different layer of reality. It drops about 27 meters into the earth, spiraling downward in perfect geometry. As you walk the staircase, the light changes gradually, sound softens. And the structure is not random. There are 9 platforms as you descend, a number often associated with Dante's 9 circles of Inferno, but also with ritualistic symbolism. Another theory suggests that the initiation well represents the womb of a woman. The further down you go, darker it gets, and the more humid it gets, which actually represents the birth, so symbolizing the enlightenment. We haven't found the light yet, but I'm pretty sure that we're gonna find it pretty soon. If you want to find the light at the end of the well, come and join this journey with me.
It makes one wonder what was taking place at the very bottom, that all of them, because it feels like, because there were so many windows looking down, it feels like that whole thing was lined with different people and they were all looking down, watching something taking place at the very bottom.
Bro, where did they get the woman thing from? Like, what is, it's a dark well hole. Like, I don't know, man. Like, bro.
Anything but the truth.
Yeah, bro. And not only that,
it's the opposite, because it's like, you would think that if this was some kind of symbol of childbirth, wouldn't the birth be into the light?
Yeah.
Not into the darkest part of the well?
It's more like a
where there's some kind of
butthole.
sigil on the ground?
Silo.
This is like straight up like,
hey, that sigil,
this is
JT,
where,
do you know that sigil when we were in Texas is the same sigils they had on the floor in Texas?
well, they
You
had all
remember that?
kinds of sigils in there.
That was-
Brian, by the way, yeah, you're going to have to send me some of those videos so I can stitch some of them
Yeah,
together
yeah.
for the state capitol building.
That same
yeah,
that same symbol was on, I think, on the floor in
like lots of things.
Bro, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's just I mean, gosh, if you look at the pictures of this thing, it is crazy. I mean, it's definitely could we build something like this today?
Dude, it's just like, bro, like that's clearly evil feeling. It does not feel good. The initiation tunnel.
So supposedly this was built in like the early 1900s.
I don't know, with their weird symbolism he showed too. Yeah, that symbol is at the floor. It just looks almost just like that one.
But like, notice all of the windows as you walk down. Why would those need to be there if the goal was to get down? I'm telling you, it feels like whatever ceremony that they were having at the bottom, it was meant for everyone to kind of line the stairs and look out of the windows and watch and to be participants. It kind of reminds me of that scene, JT.
In Foundation?
Yes, dude.
Yeah,
yes.
where they worship the android cult. They worship the robots.
And it looked exactly like that. And they were all lining the stairwell on the different levels, all staring out of the window, watching what was happening. It was exactly like that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is so supposedly. I guess this is not supposedly. This is in Portugal, and so they got this castle here too. And I think all this crap was supposedly built in like 10 years. Whatever. This stuff is old.
Whatever.
This stuff is way old. Look at all this stuff. Look at that Antiquitech there. And it's connected with the Knights Templar.
They were doing some weird ritual stuff there, that's for sure.
You think?
That's some evil stuff there, I think, going on there.
You kind of wonder, though, that it's an impressive old world structure. What if some of it was above the ground? What if all of it was above the ground at some point?
Yeah, true.
Could you think how complex it would actually be to do what they're showing right there? Are you just digging? You dug that gigantic hole and now you're building straight up from it?
I mean,
That
the
is
only
insane.
rebuttal to that would be the property where the other castle is. That is above ground.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I'd have to see the lay of the land, because like that could be up on a hill. You know what I mean? Like what you
exactly.
said could still be true.
I would say they probably just built like a really deep well, and then they just decided to build a staircase up and out of it, maybe, and they just like.
But it's all
handed it down.
complex. It looks like obviously it was all intentional the way it was built. With a lot of intention the way it was built.
It was very intentional.
Again, horse and cart, hammer and chisel. They're building castles and this insane tower that goes down into the ground. And for what reason? I don't know, guys. I think we should just leave it there. There's lots of mysteries about this stuff. And I think that, again, there's no greater mysteries to me about all the lies we're told about what's beneath our feet. To go back to what Brian said about that woman who had some kind of a spiritual experience, and then she just says, dig here in Egypt, and you're going to find this palace. You could probably dig almost anywhere in Egypt and find something. You know what I'm saying? Like the amount of things that are under our feet, including the places we all live, where our neighbors are and our neighborhoods are. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, how far? We talked about today, we found there's steamboats, hundreds of them, under cornfields in Texas or in Kansas. How insane is that?
It made me think, especially that account of that woman. It made me, that Brian was talking about, it made me think about Elon Musk's quote that he's 5,000 years old. And so it made me think, like, the odds that woman's vessel was taken over and she is now occupied by a disembodied Nephilim spirit, and she knew exactly where all of that stuff was, that seems like the most probable outcome. I think there's a lot more people than we realize that have been overtaken, and their vessels have been overtaken, and they're being occupied by a lot of those disembodied spirits.
Ancient spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient angels.
You got it. Okay, on that note, guys, I really appreciate you guys watching. And if you guys want to watch these episodes early and uncensored, please consider supporting this podcast over on Patreon. Also, consider supporting the podcast sponsor, Modern Roots Life. Get yourself healthy. Support a great Christian-owned company and this podcast. Win-win-win. Also, I got the OG Jesus Said There'd Be Haters shirt. I'm considering bringing them back because I wore the last one last week, and a lot of people say, hey, where can we get that one? Well, they're not available currently unless you like a size medium or small. There's a few left. But otherwise, check out the merch store over on my website, link in the description. And also, if you guys are considering making social media content and don't know how to share this message, please consider checking out the Echoes of Truth Network. Regardless, guys, if you can't support the podcast in any other way by just besides listening, watching, subscribing, all those things, just please do that. And we will see you next time. We love you guys. God bless.
JT's mixtape, now a show about history, faith, and truth, with the sound and the conversation we've never heard before. JT's mixtape, now there's a podcast that has exactly what we've been looking for all of us who will not compromise. Listen, JT created mixtape for us. Woo!